Maybe I don't understand this. You're changing, I can't stand it. My heart can't take this damage. In the way I feel, can't stand it. Maybe I don't understand this. You're changing, I can't stand it. My heart can't take this damage. In the way I feel, can't stand it. Baby, I don't understand this. You're changing, I can't stand it. My heart can't take this damage. In the way I feel, can't stand it. Baby, I don't understand it. I don't know.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Manta Cup show match for us today between what I believe to be UBTenacity and E-Wolves. I am Dessa and being joined by on the desk today, Mr. Linus, the main man organizer himself as well. Linus, how are we doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to be able to produce this whole thing for everyone. Keep in mind, I'm not that experienced in producing. I'm doing the bare minimum just so we can be able to watch the games, stream the games. And yeah, I'm really happy that you can join me here, Dessa.
I'm sure we'll be able to manage, man. We can guide ourselves through this together, but should be a definitely exciting match. This we've already had a couple of show matches before this, so this is definitely gonna be another one in the bucket and just get you all excited, before actual Manta Cup and the actual weekend, which is gonna be a long day for us also. Definitely stay tuned for that. But talking about the teams a little bit, of course, we're gonna start off with Evils at least for now, since they at least have the players that I know a little bit more about than the other side. But of course, it is gonna be what I believe to be Lena, Adelf, mentally unstable, Wishy, and then Nord Tempest as well. Linus, I know you've had a couple of Manta Cup experiences beforehand, so which one do you think is the team that we should be looking out for today?
I think it's actually UBTenacity. Um, for those who are not aware about the last Manta Cup, UBTenacity actually got second. That roster got the silver medal. They defeated Gucci, the Gucci roster that was like winning the SLE with the captain and stuff. They defeated them in the semifinals and went to finals, and then they lost there. And for this cup, they are missing their main man, Weakside Wizard. He was the community MVP for the last tournament. But I still think the roster is really, really strong, and I think yeah, we should definitely be looking out for this team here.
Yeah, definitely one of the teams to look out for as well. And I think it's going to be really interesting heading into today as well, because obviously with the year starting to close in slowly but surely, only a couple of days to go, we are as well going to soon have the whole Rift update in League, and it's going to shake up the meta a lot with the new items and the new changes as well. So this is, in a way, one of the sort of last organized tournaments we are going to have before we get the whole new Rift, which is just gonna be a whole lot of shakeup and just everything's gonna be tossed around. So for me, I'm gonna be really excited to see how sort of that changes the meta and how it shifts the meta around.
Yeah, I feel so too. I'm really happy that the tournament happens right before the new season. That way we don't have any weird shenanigans at the tournament. Um, but yeah, have you like seen any of the players that you're watching right now or this game? Like, is there anyone familiar with you?
There's a couple of names that ring a bell to me, mainly not on the UB Tenacity side. All of those players to me are names that I'm not really familiar with at all. But on the other side, on Evil's, I know Lena is a name that I'm familiar with, of course, in SLE. did play a couple of games for Wacky Raid squad. Mentally unstable as well, another SLE candidate as well as Wishy. So, and Adolf as well does ring a bell, so it is on the evil side that are the names that I recognize, and definitely for me, it's gonna be interesting to see how UBTenacity can hold themselves together because, like you said, did get second in the last Manta Cup, so I think they're gonna be out for blood, and I think they're definitely gonna want revenge.
Yeah, I feel so too. I think this can be a really exciting scrim because we haven't seen UBTenacity yet. They scrimmed before, we haven't seen those. They looked strong against some teams. They've gotten wins, but they've also dropped games against other teams. I believe they went 0-2 against Beast's team. So I'm really excited to see whether or not this team can actually do it, if they are a favorite or if they are just like fake, if you want it like that. Um, Regarding the Evolves, I think the Evolves roster has like lots of potential. You have players like Lina, Diamond 2 in solo queue, like she's really good. She got second with the Veki Res. Then you have players like Quishy, who is getting better and better. Like he looks really good lately. And the whole roster are like veterans that play competitive for like years and years. And that's why I think you can't underestimate that roster only because it's not a permanent one, only because it's one that was built for the Manta Cup. That doesn't mean this team can't perform.
Yeah, definitely. So they are one of the teams that sort of I have been looking out for. Of course, we know already, at least if there are anyone here who does watch SLE, I know Lena is an enjoyer of sort of the not enchanter, but mages in the mid lane, so to speak, the Malhazars, the Orianas. Of course, Oriana, I think, was one of our most played champions, if I'm not completely mistaken. And of course, mentally unstable's Aatrox is something that we really can't look past if it does end up getting left open, just because it is one of his most played champions at the moment. He's been grinding that man in solo queue, almost actually hitting diamond as well. So definitely, if I'm looking out for bans, I think specific champion wise, when it does go up against the Evolves, for me it is gonna be the Oriana, it is gonna be the Aatrox, and potentially even Adelphis Thresh, because I know that is something that if you have a good Thresh on your team, it can be really scary to play against if they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that definitely I think Delph's Thresh is really scary. I don't think Aatrox needs to be banned here because Mentally Unstable is actually not playing top lane this tournament. He's the jungler for Evolves.
Ah,
And
true.
Nor Tempest is the top laner. I think what will be banned here from Mentally Unstable is his Hecarim. Like we had a show match where he picked Hecarim 2 times and he just completely soloed both games. I think he went like 30 kills, 2 deaths or something like that, and solo won both games. And I think that is the champion that will be taken out here by UBTenacity. But yeah.
And I mean, Hecarim in itself is a pretty strong champion, especially if you pair it up with something like aforementioned before the Oriana. If you can give that Hecarim a little bit of movement speed to get himself in those fights earlier on, it can be really good and really scary to fight against as well. And if the Hecarim does get left open, I would expect for them to look for the Oriana pairing. Oriana is a champion that we've seen really high prio for quite a while now, just because it does tend to be pretty good and can sort of self-sustain and can fit around a lot of comps, can be played around with a lot of champions as well, has great utility, has great damage, especially if you do end up going with the Ludens Echo build. So definitely gonna be interesting to see if it does get left open. But the bot lane is something that I'm not entirely sure about whether it is strong on evils, just because the names down there don't really say anything to me.
Yeah, I think maybe the matchup to watch here is the mid lane. Hikoga is the guy coming in for UBTenacity. As I said before, he's replacing Weakside Wizard, who has made a name for himself in the Manta Cup sphere. And he's coming in here to face against Lina, who might be the best player on her team as well. And I'm really excited to see how those two match against each other. Will we see like two control mages, or what will we see in this matchup?
Yeah, definitely gonna be interesting, like you said. And Well, you asked what we are gonna see in this matchup. Personally, for me, I'm hoping for a little bit of action. I don't personally like mid laners who just sit there, push waves for the entire game, and just sit in their lane. I think there is such a strong capability when it comes to mid lane to move around the map, with it, of course, being in the middle of the game. You are literally in the center of everything. So I think if you can move from your lane, if you can proactively look for plays around the map, I think it can really make the difference for your team. I think it can be especially on a champion like Oriana who's got a big shockwave and that big team fight tool.
Yeah, I feel so too. And we see the first bans coming in. And we see two bans against Lina. Both the Oriana and the Syndra taken out, and there you have the Hecarim. Um, what do you think is Lina's way to play here? Like, what do you think she will pick here with Oriana and Syndra out?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Of course, not all enchanters are gone. There is still the Lux, which I know she does play. There is still the Malhazar as well. And I'm not at all surprised that the Oriana Hecarim combo that we talked about so much does end up getting taken away just because it is so, so strong. This is something we predicted. It is going to be the Akshan ban on the other side and a swift Rakan pickup on the side of UBTenacity, which tells me we could potentially see a Zaya here as well, paired up alongside that if it doesn't get taken away by the side of Evils here. But again, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think this opens up the question: do you take the Xayah here yourself? Like, do you deny Xayah Rakan, or are you like, yeah, no, we don't need that. We will do something else here. But I think we will see in the next seconds. Oh yeah, they take the Xayah. There you go.
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's a good move just because Zyra Khan does tend to be really strong, especially in the early game. If you can get that W start on both of those champions, get that grand entrance in alongside the Featherstorm, it can be really, really strong. But now that the seconds do wind down, it'll be interesting to see what Evils do sort of opt in for here because you have a lot of options. You can go with the mid lane, potentially pick it up early on, or you can, like I said, just show the support here since the Rakan was already picked up on the other side. But this opens up the counter of Ash, which is a really good matchup for the side of UB Tennessee if they do choose to go with it.
I love the Ashe here. I loved Ashe in general. I think she's really good as an ADC right now. Both like she does a lot of damage, which she didn't do originally. Like there were times where you picked her mainly just for the utility, but now she also does damage, and I love this pick here. I think it's a really really good um choice.
Yeah, definitely. So this tends to be the general counter to Zaya just because she finds it really annoying to play against, especially when you've got that slow and you've got that range. If you can stack up that lethal tempo before the Zaya can, you can definitely outrange her as well. So this is a great matchup for the side of UBTenacity. Not entirely sure if they're gonna have push considering it is Zaya at the end of the day, but it's gonna be the Viego picked up as well, and that definitely is interesting because Viego is a champion line that we don't tend to really see too often.
Yeah, that's true. He has not been the greatest shape in the last months, but I like Viego here. I think it's a really aggressive pick. You're already saying, okay, we want to get those kills, we want to get those resets, we will fight for that. And I think it's really scary to look at the Rakan, Ashe, and Viego in the early game. I think they are really strong at picking champs.
Yeah, definitely. So it's gonna be the Belveth as well picked up here for the side of Evils. Belveth, of course, ever since she got the ability to critically strike with her dashes, has been pretty strong champion, especially when it comes to those later stages of the game, those later team fights. If she can get one of her corrals and get that sort of evolved stage on her going, it is and tends to be a really good champion. As we do enter the second phase of the banning phase, it is going to be the Akali getting taken away here by Evils. We'll see what UBTenacity ends up responding with. Still, neither mid laner yet to be picked. So the matchup that we hyped so much and talked about so much is still wide open. And we do see the orange band away here on the side of UBTenacity, which means that they are probably scared of Evil's weak side in the top lane.
Yeah, and I think the Oing ban is really good here because the frontline, like the frontlining champs on Ewolves are not there yet. Of course, you have the Belveth, but she's not that tanky. You don't want her to be your main frontline. So I think Ornn is, of course, the main choice because of his items, because of like his just sheer tankiness in CC. So I like this ban a lot.
Yeah, Ornn for a while has sort of been the go-to tank if you want some frontline, just because, like you said, the items, he's got a bunch of base damage as well, which means he generally can 1v1 people that other tanks tend to not be able to do. He also, because of the base damage that he has, tends to win most tank versus tank matchups, which means that if you end up just weak-siding top lane, Ornn is gonna win 99% of the time, as we do see Lissandra here being picked for Evils. That means one of the mid laners has been picked up. It does look like Evils are gonna have that counter pick as well, which does mean that top lane is gonna be really interesting to see. It's gonna be the blind Gnar in the top lane for the side of UBTenacity. We'll see what they end up picking up in the mid lane. But what do you think that Evils should look for here in the top lane?
I actually really like this situation. I think a Yone pick would be really good here. I've seen it a few times by Noah Tempest on top lane. I think the Yone pairs really good into Gnar, maybe in Irelia, something along those lines. I know that he's like really cocky and he likes to play those skilled champs into those matchups. If they want to go for a bit more, like a bit safer option, like maybe a frontliner, Malphite, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Malphite or Cassandra would be picks that I take. And yeah, it's the Malphite in the end. How do you value this pick?
It is the Malphite in the end, like you said, and I think I would have valued the Cassante a little bit more. Although it would be a hard game to play considering you are going up against the Ash slows, you're going up against that range Rakan as well, a great support at sort of just peeling your ADC, a great support that's just keeping your ADC alive as well. And the Viego really on the other side can just wait around and collect those souls, but I'm liking what the side of Evils have done here. They've gone for the Lissandra, they've gone for the Malphite, and they've sort of just opted into going in instead of going out. And generally, Zaya tends to be one of those good picks simply because you can sort of leave her on her own for the most part, with her having that Featherstorm plus the Blade Caller combo. And it does mean that your Janna can sort of just instead help out that front line, potentially shield up the Belveth, buff up that Belveth, which means she's gonna be an even greater threat to the Gnar on the other side, to the Viego as well. But in my opinion, this Viego is gonna have a rough game because you're looking at a Malphite, you're looking at Lissandra. There's so much CC on the side of Evils, and I think there's gonna have to be either a really good flank, a really good angle, or then he's just gonna have to arrive late and try to pick up the souls and potentially clean up the fight. But I personally do prefer the comp of Evils here, and I think they've drafted pretty well, although they might lack some damage early on into the game.
I totally agree on that. I think if the Viego really wants to shine here, he needs to be reliant on his team, like have a good Gnar ult, have a good Rakan ult, maybe an Ashe ult. He needs them to set him up, and I think that's the only way that he can really do damage realistically. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how it goes. I'm gonna put my numbers on Evolves on this one. What about you, Dessa?
Both of our numbers looks like it is gonna be on Evils, and for me it is gonna be interesting because I did say earlier on that I don't like mid laners who just stay in their lane. But I think in this case, when you're looking at UB Tenacity, the mid lane matchup that we hyped so much about, I think it is just gonna be scaling just because you're looking at a Victor, you're looking at Lissandra. I think if you can get the Lissandra out of lane post level 6, if you can potentially make some plays with the Frozen Tomb, it should be good for you considering the setup you have in Malphite if you want to go to that top side. Yes, Gnar is not the easiest champion to kill if he's in mega form, but if you can time the roam and the gank correctly, you can get him into mini form, potentially get the Frozen Tomb into the Unstoppable Force, and just load up a bunch of CC onto his forehead, and should just realistically be enough to take him out if they have the damage for it. But you can do the same thing on the other side. You can opt in to instead help out your Zaya, put the Frozen Tomb on top of the Ash, have the Janna Tornado follow up. Potentially, if the Janna can reach behind the Ash, even have her ult her backwards for a little bit of insect action. But I think the mid lane is gonna be so key for the side of Ewolves just because they've drafted Alessandra, they've drafted such a mage that so heavily relies on making plays in the early game and not just sitting in mid lane versus a Victor who just wants to scale. Victor just wants to sit in mid lane, wants to get those items in, and then become that late game monster. So this mid lane to me is definitely gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and with that, we will go into a short break till we are in the game. Um, so yeah, see you in a bit.
Fuck your apologies and fuck your policies. Fuck the queen and fuck all the monarchies. Fuck your lies and fuck your passion. Fuck your girlfriend and fuck your reaction. No borders, no borders, no borders. No más fronteras. Fuck your borders. Fuck your imprisonment, and fuck the government. Fuck the class war, and fuck the parliament. Fuck your laws and fuck your order. Fuck your walls and fuck your borders. No borders, no borders, no borders. No más fronteras. No borders, no borders, no borders. No más fronteras. Fuck your borders. No borders, no borders, no borders. No más fronteras. Fuck your borders. Fuck your borders. Fuck your borders. Fuck your borders. Tommy's a good father, two sons and a daughter, but he wakes up and he asks himself, why even bother if he cannot feed his family? The wage he's paid's insanity. Every day he's dealing with a new calamity. Lost his old occupation, but it wasn't immigration. It was a machine, automation that replaced him. Politicians left him corruption since the recession, so he grabs his Smith and Wesson, says he'll teach him all the lesson like. Get down on the ground. It's a stick up. Nobody make us.
To Summoner's Rift.
And yeah, with that, we are back at the Rift. Is there
30
anything
seconds until
interesting
minions
going on,
spawn.
Dessa?
Game one, baby. It is gonna be flat three games as well, so a bunch of League of Legends action. But right off the bat, looking at the summoner spells, looking at their runes, I'm not really seeing anything too out of the ordinary so far. We do see Unoff with the Glacial Augment, which is something that Jannas have been opting into for quite a while now, just because of the massive flow it gives you on the Tornado
Minions have
as well. And
spawned.
Lina opting for that Arcane Comet in the mid lane, gonna try to match the poke a little bit, which is interesting to me. I personally prefer the Electrocute on the Lissandra just because it gives you more burst damage. But I think that is just personal preference. I think both of them are completely fine. We do see Conqueror on both of the junglers here. And speaking of the junglers, a little bit of a, not a mirrored start, so to speak, but a little bit of switcheroo, as we do see as well. Koge is going to step up, going to get some vision very early on down, which means they know exactly where Mentally Unstable is going to be starting at.
Yeah, and I think it kind of tells a lot that the Viego is pathing up to the Gnar. Apparently he wants to get Gnar or Victor a bit ahead on the top side, and on the other side, Balveth is going to the bot lane. Get Krishy ahead, get the Xayah ahead, maybe have pressure there. But so far, I think they're like regarding rune choice, we see that the Malphite went for Comet, which I think is really good here. And we see a flash out of Xayah. That's an early one.
Yeah, very early flash coming out of Wish It there. Just did not account for the level 2. But I think it is a good flash. Most people right there would not have immediately flashed the Grand Entrance. They would have tanked it, lost their entire HP bar, and been like, I have to flash here. Wishy having great awareness to be like, I can't afford to lose my HP bar, so I'm gonna flash early on, knowing that I'm gonna have to flash anyway, just save myself that health, which will later on come into fruition. It's a great cancel out of on the Grand Entrance, and already showing why the Janna can be so strong into these engaged supports just due to the disengage.
Yeah, and I think the bot lane of UBTenacity is looking strong. Like they are getting the pressure, which I expected in this matchup. Um, but they are not getting that much HP advantage, and I think that's really, really important for the E-Wolves here. That being said, I think you pronounce the name just Delph, not Delph or something. It's just Delph, and you ignore
Okay.
the alpha. Um, but yeah, like the Belveth already recalled has their longsword ready, so she's really strong right now.
Yeah, it was an early base out of Mentally Unstable after finishing those top camps, not opting in for the Doran's Blade, which is something we have seen junglers generally tend to go towards, especially on the Wukong. It's something we tend to see quite often on. If you get that early base, it just gives you great combat stats very early on into the game. We do see the pick on the top side as well, potentially trying to set up a play, but you can see Nora Tempest is doing a great job of respecting the potential gank. They don't know where Mopo is on the map, which means he is just gonna miss out on a little bit of CS. But Mopo gonna finish his base, gonna opt into a recurve out of his own alongside the controller, gonna match the early power coming up from Mentally Unstable here. And generally, the Viego is gonna be stronger in the early game than the Belvet is. So I'm expecting, if there is gonna be some aggression out of either of these junglers, I'm expecting it for it to be Mopo, if not Mentally Unstable.
Yeah, I agree on that totally. And we already see that both mid laners had their first recall as well. Both used TP to get back on the lane, so nothing too exciting there. But yeah, Delph now recalled. Krishy alone on the map, but so far it doesn't seem like he's being punished for it.
Yeah, so far it does look like the wave is gonna be bouncing back towards the bot lane of E-Wolves, which means Wishy is gonna be unfortunately denied of his base. The silver lining here is the other side didn't opt in for a base either, which does mean that you're not necessarily behind on combat power. Although if you want to look for the Drake, I think this is a great chance for the side of UBTenacity. And as I say that, Mopo is gonna actually start up the Drake with the push he has from the bot lane. You can see with Mentally Unstable being in base, Hikoge walking around as well to secure his team gets this. It is gonna be the first dragon of our games tonight, going over to UBTenacity with some great macro out of the bot lane in the jungle.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you can expect with this early pressure. You have the Ashe, that is really strong early. You have the Rakan, and you have the push. So getting the Drake here is kind of must-have, and it's really nice, even though it's only the Chem Tank Drake. So yeah, so now we have the Cloud Soul next. What do you think will be? No, the Cloud Drake next. What do you think will be the soul this game, or what are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for it potentially be an exciting one, but we do see a trade in the top lane. Our Tempest getting a little bit low there. Does still have the unstoppable force, so he should be completely fine to catch that big wave up in the top lane. Ignis gonna try to keep this one outside the tower, but great denial out of the Evil's bot lane. For soul predictions, I'm hoping it is a Hextech Soul just because I love to see the ingenuity of players when it comes to those Hextech gates around the map. I often in my solo queue games tend to forget they exist, so it is good to see that other people tend to generally not do that. And for me, I hope it's a Hextech Soul, but I know the game isn't gonna be kind enough to give us a Hextech Soul right off the bat. So I'm predicting a classic Infernal Soul for our first game of the day.
Okay, then I'm going with the Mountain Soul. I think the Mountain Soul is really boring, but I think that's the one that we will get here. That being said, you can see that now everyone on the whole map, besides Malphite, has recalled, so everyone has their first items, which makes a fight on the top side right now really favored for UBTenacity. But I can imagine that he will just crash the wave and then also get his recall.
Yeah, I doubt there's gonna be a lot of fighting in the top side, to be honest, considering it is just a normal fight matchup. We have seen, yeah, both of the top players have fought so far, but I doubt we're gonna see much jungle attention. Although, as I say that, Ictis had made his way over to the top lane, which does mean it is a numbers advantage for them thus far. You can see Delph in the mid lane as well, trying to make his way to match Ictis in the top side in case any play does end up happening. You see as well Mopo with that level 6 to mentally unstable level 5-4 now, so there are level advantage for the side of UBTenacity if they do want to take a fight. So this would make it a great time for them if they can find it, but you can see members on the top side of the map. Oh, Shorty could be in trouble here potentially. He's gonna get collapsed on by 3. Unstoppable Force is gonna get flashed out. There's a great flash out of him. Grand Entrance as well, landing onto 1. Glacial Augment is gonna come through due to a tornado of Delph. Mopo is now here with the level 6 World Heartbreaker come through so far. The answer is no. You can see them encroaching slowly onto the side of E. Wolves. The knockup does come through as well. Mental stable now. The Foriolo on HP. Mopo is 1 HP. Exhaust gonna come through. The slow is gonna be enough for Flood. Gonna go over to Mental stable. He's gonna get the reset on, and this could be a disaster for the side of UBTenacity, but that's gonna be the Ash Arrow out
The
of
Ash
nowhere. The
ult.
enchanted crystal snipe out of the bot lane is gonna turn this fight around for Shorty. He's gonna have to pick up the kill. The answer is gonna be yes. 1-2 knockout for him. Blue team double kill for Shorty, and that is a great play out of Roxor to end the bot lane.
Yeah, and that one looked like it was going really well for the E-Wolves. Like you kited away, and then you could turn. You got the kill for the Belworth. You took down the Viego, and it looked so good. And then the enchanted crystal arrow, as you said, hitting. I think it was the was it the Malphite or the Janna that was hit?
I think it was the
With the
Belveth.
oh, it was the Belvat. Okay, yeah, but the arrow hitting and then Nar just cleaning up the kills, and that Nar is really scary now.
Yeah, Hikoge as well is in a scary situation of his own. He's gonna walk into 3. Lina is gonna be around as well to try to get the Frozen Tomb on, and you can see just how much damage the Chaos Storm is doing to mentally unstable at this stage of the ritual. They're gonna be at 1800 HP. It's gonna reset though, no one's gonna pick it up for Namopo though, it's falling very, very low on HP. Unstoppable Force is not gonna be up quite yet. You can see Hikoge looking for the final blow, looking for the kill. It's not gonna find it this time around. Could be in trouble now with the big rock in his face. Frozen Tomb is gonna come to exist, gonna stall the fight a little bit, but Delph is gonna be in trouble. Here comes the strong Gnar in the back line, but Lina, Oliveira on HP here, is gonna be able to pick up Ictus, picks up a kill for himself. Mopo is gonna take him out for Shorty. Can he finish up any of these kills? Even Delph ended up living at the back end of that fight, but he's gonna go mega very, very soon, so keep your eyes on that. Meanwhile, a 1v1 potentially brewing in the bot lane. You can see Wishy getting a little bit bored, does want some action of his own, but Roxer is just gonna run away. And again, a good fight for the side of UBTenacity, but it is gonna be Evils who are up by a kill as Wishy is gonna walk forward. Lethal Tempo almost proc. Boot does come down, and both of these bot laners are just at the knife's edge of fighting.
Yeah, and I think that fight on the top side was really interesting. Both teams wanted the Herald, and I think Lina made a really good play there, going deep in, getting those kills, and also like preparing the kills for her own team. And now it looks really, really even again.
It does look really even, although that might change things as we have a gank in the bot lane out of Ictus, which is gonna fall very, very low on HP. That is gonna be the ultimate out of Delph, coming out to try to heal and regen his ADC back some of the HP he ended up losing. But keep your eyes on the objectives, because you know what is up. The Dragon and the Herald are both up. You can see Mopo on the Dragon 4 now. On the other side, Herald is going to be starting mentally unstable. It does look like this is going to be a trade of objectives. And considering the side of UBTenacity has had the bot push pretty much this entire game, I'm not at all surprised.
Yeah, and we had like 8 minutes of peace, 8 minutes where nothing really happened, and then out of nowhere it just all exploded, and now you just kept talking nonstop.
Yeah, it does look like the explosion is not done quite yet, though, as Ikage are pretty much in trouble in the mid lane. But look at the damage out of Chaos Storm. We could turn this around. Frozen Tomb onto Lina to try to keep her alive, but Heartbreaker is gonna come on through to pick up the kill. A great play out of Ikage. Meanwhile, a dive in the bot lane, though Wishy could be in a little bit of trouble. It's gonna be the exhaust coming out to keep Voroxer from doing that DPS. Keeping on Wishy, burned his Feather Storm and Blade Collar earlier on, which means they were not available. But a big play out of Ikage in the mid lane in the Turgon to keep himself alive.
Yeah, and I was hoping that we see a bit more kills right now. That it starts to get more and more exciting. But I think now it will cool down a bit. I think the next real fight will break out when the Herald is being placed, or when the next Drake is spawning.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like the next fight might break out the second somebody just sees somebody. Considering how the last 2 to 3 minutes have gone, I feel like teams have just been spotting someone out in the jungle and they're like, "Hey, I want to kill this guy, so let's just go for it, see what happens." You know, so far these fights have been going the way you've beat Tenacity. Although kills have evened up now, so has the gold lead pretty much. It is a couple hundred gold towards UB Tenacity, but couple hundred gold at this point in the game doesn't really mean much, although the Drake lead is by their side. So when you talk about objectives, it is gonna be favored for them. And it looks like your soul prediction did pay off as well, because it is gonna be the Infernal Soul and not the Mountain Soul, which means the soul prediction this time is gonna go over to me.
Yeah, really great prediction. I think you can see that I'm not usually casting, and that Dessa is the experienced person here. Let's see if you can keep that streak for the evening. By the way, for everyone not knowing it yet, we are not only streaming this series, which are 3 games, UBTenacity against E-Wolves, we will also stream afterwards UBTenacity again against Turtles SNC, the team that joined the Manta Cup 2 days ago, replacing the scumbags who left the tournament.
Yeah, so anyone looking to scout out UB Tenacity, this is definitely the night to tune in, as they sort of wanted to play a lot of League of Legends tonight. Not that had anything to do, so they were like, you know what, we're just gonna hop in and play 6 games for our entertainment, which is always good to see. But you can see a little bit of a fight brewing in the top side potentially. I did see Koge step up a little bit aggressively, and I saw Lina have her ultimate up, so I was maybe potentially looking for some fights to happen over Grand Entrance under Tower Ictus. That is a confusing move, not one I would make myself, as he's gonna get caught here, but Frozen Tomb in the mid lane as the flash can't come forward. Mentally unstable is gonna get the kill on in Delph, having to burn that flash, though somehow Ictus ends up making it out alive. Roxer is gonna pick up the kill. The Nado is gonna hit, but not enough damage onto Ictus, and somehow the Grand Entrance under Tower ends up with Delph in the grave, as we have TP in the bot lane. Flash
Oh
forward from
no, the
Tempest. He
ult!
does see the ult is not gonna hit. Unstoppable Force is gonna go a little bit wide. Or any kills gonna get picked up. This could be a disaster for
Oh,
the
it's a
side of
tragedy.
Evils, as they're gonna all fall. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, they are gonna pick up a couple of objectives for themselves, but that is a disaster for Evils in the bot lane.
Yeah, it all started with Delph falling because he stepped forward. Then after that, they placed the Herald mid lane, got the first tower, which was nice, but also the TP coming in from the Malphite, and then he just steps forward. The ult, everyone knew he's going to ult there, and they just flash a dash out of it, and he basically hits no one. In the end, yes, they kill the Rakan. Yes, that kill goes over to Quishy, but also the Ashe gets, I think, 2 kills there. And on the mid lane, in the same time, Moppo gets a shutdown onto the Bel'Veth for this Viego. So in the end, really, really good for UBTenacity here.
Yeah, Nora Tempest kind of split them like the Red Sea. Everyone just scattered into the winds. You can see that now a team fight brewing. The top side of the map, meanwhile, Nora Tempest is going to find Mopo Horgado on HP. That's going to be Shreddy who wins the first team fight. First kill of the team fight. Delph now going to be the one who falls first. Nora Tempest going to be in trouble as well. Does find the shot down onto Mopo. That's going to be a double kill for Shorty. Dinar in the top lane once again picking up all these kills. 5-0 for now, but UBTenacity looking very strong in the top side with this already Trinity Force finished up Gnar.
Yeah, and that Gnar, you can see how much damage that one can bring out. That being said, we're seeing a gank here.
We do have a gank in the bot lane. Mental Table not the highest of health bars for this, but it doesn't even matter. The CC comes on through the corral is gonna be collected. You can see the pings going towards the Drake though, which is to me a confusing move. Mentally unstable is low HP. There is no mid prio to be had. You can see Shorties in the mid lane as well, looking for this play. So far, the Drake has been started immediately cancelled as mentally unstable realized, hang on, I'm not really able to do this with no mid lane prio.
Yeah, but now you can see that everyone is there. Lina has TP, and now they are starting it back up. They're saying, fuck the mid lane tower, we are getting this Drake.
It looks like they do not care about the mid lane prio as it's gonna be going to their side. That means it's gonna be a reset on the passive as well out of mentally unstable. Now grouping towards this mid lane, a great ward out of I believe Ictus is gonna spot out pretty much everybody, which means they do know the mid lane is safe for now. But the first dragon of the game is gonna go over to Evils, and this could have been their plan all along. Sack the first two Drakes, get the quadruple infernal, and just do all the damage and just one shot everyone in the game.
Yeah, and I like that they are getting this Drake because playing against Soul Point is always so stressful. You make one bad fight, or you get one of your members caught, and it can already mean the soul for the opponent, which can be disastrous in certain games. And I think in this one it could be really detrimental. So definitely it gives you more time to get back on board. That being said, we see that the gold lead is already 3k now. It was pretty even a few minutes ago, but now it's scaled over.
Yeah, it's mainly the fight in the top side that ends up swinging the gold lead in their favor with Shorty picking up all them kills. You can see as well on the individual gold, it is gonna be 2000 lead in the top lane for the side of UBTenacity. A little bit of a lead in the jungle as well, at least for now. Mid lane and bot lane are both very even. So it is mainly just that top lane that is ahead for the side of UBTenacity, and all the other lanes seem to be stable at least for the moment.
Yeah, and this Gnar is really scary. He got the 3 kills early. He got 2 more. He's on 5-0-1 with 155 CS. He's 60 CS up on the Malphite. Good, it's a Malphite. You don't need that much resources to be useful. But I still think this Gnar, this is the one that can be the game changer here.
I mean, definitely so. And we talked about in Champ Select, right? We talked about the influence of an Arcan House. There's gonna be a quickness popped in the mid lane. Like this little bit of an overzealous play, I want to say, coming out from him, considering Delpho's right there is gonna be the stun, but a little bit wide out of Mopo as well. Meanwhile, a little bit more trading in the top lane. But I feel like Ictus so far this game has played really aggressively and somehow just keeps getting away with it.
Yeah, and now we see a fight in the top lane, then Gnar jumping onto the Malphite, but yeah, nothing really happens in the end, besides Gnar coming out.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic, right? We use Narwhal for trading just because it's such short cooldown. Something we've seen happening ever since, I want to say, a Worlds couple of years back, which is where I first started seeing it for the most part. You can see it as though does have to make a run for the hills as he's getting chased down by the goon squad of Evils. Is going to make it out alive for now, but 20 minutes into the game, you can see the big worm, the Baron Nashor, is going to be on the map now, which is the big main objective. Both teams are going to be playing for at least the next couple of minutes until that next Drake does spawn. Although the mid lane tower, I do believe, has fallen for both teams, which does open up the map so much more and does mean that the vision lines are going to be so much more dangerous to set up because you never really know what's going to be moving.
Yeah, and now that we have a small moment to breathe, I hope, I want to yeah, say something real quick towards the UBTenacity roster. Three of those people have been to the Manta Cup finals before, top laner Shorty. Um, Moppo, who has previously been the support, and I see we are having a fight in the bot lane.
There is a fight in the bot lane. Lina's trying to make a run for the hill. Does for very low here. Heartbreak was available for Moppo there to potentially ult on him, but again, Ictus with another aggressive play onto Lina. This time around, quickness is gonna be available. I could have sworn that man was about to flash ignite ult onto Lina just with the way he's been playing so far, but this time I'm gonna hold on to his summoner spells and his cooldowns as it's gonna be Baron started up here. I'm not entirely sure if the side of E-Wolves do have the damage for this one's Warroxer is gonna make his way on, and you can see no
Yeah, they
Tempest
need to
as well.
move
The
out of here.
TP is gonna be coming on in out of Lina as well, but that is the big main cooldown they want. They wanted the Lina TP, and that is exactly what they got.
And that's another 700 golds into the pockets of the Victor, and I think that now you're getting to a point where it's really really dangerous. The Victor also now 1k gold ahead on his roll. Um, so as soon as he can cash in, he will be really dangerous. And we see another fight.
There is a fight in the mid lane. Quickly is gonna be pulled as well. The Featherstorm Blade Core not quite out yet, but you see the side of UBTenacity is just rolling over E-Wolves as mentally unstable. Gonna try to make a run for the hills, but there is the 700 gold you were talking about on Hikoge, which ends up just cashing in massive dividends. You can see kills onto the Victor now picked up, and the team fight goes over to UBTenacity, turning their eyes now onto the Baron Nashor, which means they should pretty much be theirs, considering mentally unstable is just gonna face check a bush for pretty much no reason and pretty much give yourself a way over to Koge for a little bit more free gold onto the base.
Yeah, and I think the Victor still hasn't bought his item. He has 3.5k gold in his pockets that he can take to shop the new items. Maybe get boots, maybe get Rabadons. We'll see. Maybe a Zhonya's. Um, that being said, the game will get really, really, really hard for the E-Wolves now. That fight in the mid lane was so detrimental. They didn't have the Malphite. They didn't have the ult of that champ that can be so crucial in those fights. And now you're looking at a 8k deficit against a Soul Point and a Baron Nashor that will be used to push those lanes in. That being said, I
Yeah,
will finish my sentence that I had a few minutes ago. You have three players that been to the Manta Cup finals before on the UBTenacity roster. You have Shorty, he's been the top laner on that roster back then. You have Moppo, who has been the support on that roster. And you have Ictus, who has been the ADC on that roster. So you have two people on different roles now in the Manta Cup. And I think it's really, really interesting to see how that roster will function together. And right now it's looking really strong.
and when you look at it in that way as well, it does make them seem like they just have that extra motivation coming into this as well. They've got that previous experience heading into the Manta Cup, which I think just means they're gonna be even hungrier for it. And speaking of the gold on Hikoge, ends up getting the Zonia's Hourglass plus the tier 2 boots. I'm not gonna lie, if I was him, I would have personally opted in for the Rabadon and just said screw it. But he does end up going for a little bit more of a defensive option here, which when you're up against Alessandro, up against a Malphite, you really can't blame him for. I just think if he gets Rabadons here, it's kind of GG for the side of Evils just because of the pure damage he's gonna have.
Oh
That's
my
gonna be
god,
against the
and that
Wolf was head
tornado.
forward though. Quickness is gonna come on ground edges as well, but the Victor's doing so much damage here. You can see Koge just so much damage coming out. Boxing now, altering Greenwall in the back line. You can see the Ash just absolutely melting the side of Evils. Wishing that all his own devices, nothing he can do as Zaya ends up getting burned on in the ace coming out, and that should be the game as well as the side of UBTenacity are just closing in onto the base. One caster minion alive as they are not going to tank the tower for it, is going to just wait for the next wave to come on in as well. But with the death timers on E-Wolves, this should be just the Nexus blowing up here. You can see one Nexus tower is going to fall, going to head their eyes towards the second Nexus tower, gonna look for the base here. You can see Delphi is gonna spawn, but the lonely Janna, nothing he can do as the Nexus is gonna get taken on out. The UBTenacity is gonna take our first game of the night.
Yeah, and UB Tenacity with this now being 1-0 up. And I think this roster looked really, really strong. The early game was silent, and then as soon as the first kills rolled around, UB Tenacity started to get those advantages. They got the early Drakes, they got the first Nash in the end, and from there they just snowballed the game. What's your main takeaway? Both for UBTenacity, what can they do for next game, and also for the E-Wolves, what's their plan for next game?
I think mainly it is just doing more plays in the early game. I think for the side of E-Wolves, if you draft something like Alessandra, I think you have to try to make it work on the other lanes than the mid lane. That's what I was referring to in Champ Select as well. I wanted to see Alessandra move away from the mid lane. I wanted to see her potentially make plays around the map, and we really just didn't see that. In my opinion, I think Lina just spent most of the time just trying to deny any plates and any pushes out of the enemy mid lane, but it's a Victor. Victor is a champion that loves to be in the situation where he wants to just hold the enemy mid laner in that mid lane, wants to just farm up, and we saw it, right? He was pretty quiet for throughout the game, didn't really do much or get much done, and suddenly he's got 2 items, he gets 3 kills on a team fight, and he just starts one-shotting people. So I think for me, if you're gonna pick something like Alessandra, if you're gonna pick like a high CC setup mage in the mid lane, get it moving around the map, get it making proactive plays early on into the game, and try to get your lanes ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And I think right now UBTenacity is like the team to beat this evening. But yeah, we will head into another quick break before we go into the draft for game number 2. So we'll be right back.
Now, if I had to look back in my life, I wouldn't do a thing differently. Well, at least not at the end of my life, that is. Yeah, here I am, a combatant from a foreign place. Half the globe away from home, as you might say. But in truth, I never felt so at home before. This struggle's my struggle, now I sense it all the more. The human beings never really are too different. Several thousand miles I flew to make a difference. A small, humble contribution, what I'm hoping. Solidarity's not charity, I've spoken out for other struggles, they're all intertwined. The world revolution has many front lines. I feel in all honesty I don't belong nowhere, but by the same token I belong everywhere. If it's my destiny to fall with my rifle here, then so be it, just let victory occur here. And just let 10 more to come take my place and push back the fascists until we liberate. Bury me as a gorilla for the masses, a true militant, true internationalist. We write history, defeat those who fight us. The language of revolution unites us. Bury me as a gorilla for the masses, a true militant, true internationalist. We write history, defeat those who fight us. The language of revolution unites us. I can't understand you, yet I know you well. I never stood here before, maybe you can tell, but I'll gladly shed my blood in this place. Go down as a statistic, a man without a face, soul without a country, only draped in red. Struggle without borders, I chose this instead of a life of relative comfort at home. But sacrifice can make a man finally whole. The highest aspirations for us to achieve, we may need to pass away so others can breathe. For a child to grow and for a just world, I know that vindication's coming in the future though. A complete certainty in my decisions, guerrilla habits, simplicity in living. I'm still just an average man with his own dreams, but subordinate to something bigger than just me. Bury me as a gorilla for the masses, a true militant, true internationalist. We write history, defeat those who fight us. The language of revolution unites us. Bury me as a gorilla for the masses, a true militant, true internationalist. We write history, defeat those who fight us. The language of revolution unites us.
And with that, we are back here about to look at the next game. We've just swapped sides, so UBTenacity now on the red side, E-Wolves on blue side. Do you think there are any prior picks coming out from blue side now that previously were not an option for the E-Wolves?
I think when you're mainly looking at the bans, it's gonna be really interesting for me to see because I think it's gonna tell us a lot about what the Evils are looking to prio. I think there is a reason they swapped sides generally. For me, I prefer to swap sides after losing the first game just because I think it is a big mental reset not to be on the same side, but it could also be because they potentially got something cooking, potentially have a really good first pick they wanted to get out the way. And this does mean it is going to be interesting to see how the matchup is going to shake up, whether it was the red side that made the difference for UBTenacity or whether it is just the better hands on their side compared to the Wolves.
Yeah, and what I want to see now is either a Rakan ban or Rakan pick coming out from the Evils. I think Ictus on the Rakan did a lot of plays. He walked over the map. He brought his team ahead, and yeah, I want something done with this Rakan here.
Yeah, definitely can look into that as well. I also think if you are at least on the side of evils, potentially looking to first pick something like the Zaya, which they did end up picking, I believe, in that game one. It does mean that you have to ban things like the Ashe just because the Ashe is such a good matchup into the Zaya. We saw in that game they really didn't get much done in the bot lane just due to how oppressive the Ashe is to play against and how just good the slows are against a low range AD carry like the Zaya tends to be. So I think it's gonna be really interesting to see whether they are gonna opt in down in the bot lane, like you said, into the Rakan, into still the Ashe, or whether potentially we are gonna see something else, or whether it's gonna be the same Zaya Janna as well on the other side.
Yeah, and I am kind of hoping for a bit more action in the early game. Last time it took like around 8 minutes before they started clashing with each other. Yes, they got the first Drake before that, but besides that, there was not much going on. So I hope there's a bit more action. What about you, Dessa?
I mean, I'm always hoping for action, and I think in this case, it does benefit UB Tenacity, in my opinion, just because we saw, right? Every time there was a fight, macro wise, they just were there. They had their waves pushed and just played it really well. The mechanics as well, I feel like in the fights were really good on their side. Of course, it does help being ahead by about 3k gold when you're taking those fights. But I think overall, when we saw them take the fights, I think the side of UB Tenacity took the fights themselves really, really well, despite having that gold lead, which does help things. So I think if we are gonna have some early fights, it is gonna favor UB Tenacity, just because in my opinion they are the better team when it comes to fighting. But I think when it comes to evils, you want a slower game. I think you wanna potentially opt in for the things like the victor yourself, things like another scaling pick in the bot lane, maybe a Sivir potentially to help the playmaking coming out from your team, maybe some strong side fighter in the top lane, potentially like a Sante that we talked about earlier, stealth and Malphite, right? To get things going for them and really just to slow down the early game. Yes, it was slow in the first game, but I think the side of E-Wolves where they shine is not necessarily in the fights. I think it is the later on into the game, not these early game fights. And if they can get there, I think it's just gonna be great for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we see that the draft has started. Blue side banning here. Um, what do you think will be the first ban here?
I think it is going to be potentially the Oriana. Of course, you can also look to target the AD pool as well. There is going to be the Ezreal being banned away, Oriana from the side of UB Tenacity. And it's really interesting to see as the bans pretty much are the same as we saw in game one. We do see the Hecarim taken away as well. The Akshan on the side of Evils. This time around, they are going to be banning away the Lee Sin instead, which I believe we did not see banned away in that game one. So it is interesting to
Yeah, we
see
did not.
that adaptation, considering they are on the blue side this time around. But what are you sort of expecting as a first pick on the side of Evils? Do you think there is someone that's really high priority here that they're going to be
I
looking at?
think I think if there's not a Syndra ban here, Lina would just first pick the Syndra. Syndra and Oriana, her two strongest champions right now. She has other ones in her pool, and yeah, there she gets banned away. So I think there will be the Rakan. And I think this is really smart because you saw how much Ictus can do on that champ.
Yeah, definitely. So we did see Ictus sort of just, like I said during the break as well to Linus, sort of just ran into the inside of tower, the kind of limit testing, grand entrance, and just ran his way back out, like the chat that he is. We do see the Janna as a the Rakan counter on the other side. It's gonna be the Ashe so far that they are hovering. I'm glad that they're not opting to the Zaya, just because it didn't really go well for them in that game one. But we do see them as well. They are actually gonna get the Janna Ash again, which does mean that they are isn't gonna be a Zaya on the side of Evils, or at least I'm hoping not, just because it would be a really rough matchup for them to play. It'll be interesting to see what they end up locking in. The Ezreal is of course banned away, keep in mind, so that is not gonna be an option for them. Potentially can look at things into the Sivir, which I did mention earlier, and there it is. It is gonna be locked in here on the side of E-Wolves, and I think this is exactly what you need. You need the Rakan, you need the Sivir, just slow down the game and play the game at your own pace.
Yeah, I totally agree on that, and I think the Severe is a really great pickup here. I actually think it's one of the strongest champions that Cushy has, besides the Ashe that he couldn't pick up so far. Um, and I'm really, really, really interested in seeing what the mid lane pick or the jungle pick will be here for the E-Wolves. It's gonna be the Kindred. That's an interesting one. That's really, really aggressive. Also means that she will probably get counterpicked here, which makes it a bit harder. How do you value this Kindred pick?
I think the Kindred pickup is really interesting because it is not something that we really see anyone pick. I think the last time I saw Kindred in organized play was Dutch in SLE a while back, so definitely something that we I don't see too often. It is going to be the Poppy into the Kindred, which is a great pick on side of UBTenacity considering it is a Rakan as well. And this Kindred is going to be really interesting because Kindred as a champion, if she doesn't really get her marks in the early game, she's kind of screwed. And looking at the team around her, I don't really see an easy way for her to do that because you're looking at an Ash on the other side who's really, really strong in these early game fights. You're looking at a Janna as well, who's just great at denying any Rakan engage, as well as a Poppy who just can deny the Kindred and further on just lock her down. So I think this is gonna be, depending on the last two picks here, a really, really rough game for the side of Evils to play through their jungler, as well as just through their bot lane in general, just because of the Ashe pickup. But of course, it should be priority and push on the side of Evils with the Sivir pick. So that might also change things.
Yeah, and I really like this Poppy pick here. I think it's a really, really strong pick, both in the Kindred, but also and the Rakan. And I wouldn't be surprised, yeah, the Nico, if they pick more champions that can just deny the pressure of the E-Wolves, because I think then it's really, really hard for the E-Wolves to do anything here.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely so.
yeah, and now we are looking at whatever the E-Wolves are picking here. And I'm really excited to see what Lena will pick into the Nico. I think we can most likely see another control mage, maybe even an Anivia, which she didn't play so much. And we get the Aatrox for Nord Tempest on top lane.
Ooh, that's a prediction I threw out there before we got into these games, and something that I was sort of expecting to see coming out from the side of Ewolves. Of course, like you said, it is gonna be North Tempest in the top lane who's gonna be piloting that one, and Aatrox as a champion at the moment does just tend to be pretty good into most matchups. Of course, Fiora is one of her biggest he's one of his biggest counters, which is still open. So if the side of UB Tennessee do want to pick it up, it is still on the table. But there's the Lux that I mentioned earlier for the side of Ewolves, and this is to me an interesting pick. Linus, how do you yourself see the Lux work here?
I think I mean, it gives you some kind of burst power. Maybe you can pick out the Jenna there, maybe the Ashe, and that can be really crucial. On the other side, I would have wished for something with a bit more reliable damage in team fights, a bit more something like the Inivia, for example, um, which also is really hard here because Lina's four best champs, in my opinion, Victor, Lissandra, Syndra, and Ori, all those are banned away, which kind of forced her to pick the Lux here. And I think it will be really hard her to make an impact. What I think is more interesting though is the top lane matchup, the Fiora into Aatrox. It's Fiora favored. If she plays really well, she has a lot of things that she can parry, stun into the Aatrox. On the other side, if the Aatrox gets ahead, he can really snowball on top of her. And I'm really, really excited to see how this matchup will be going.
Yeah, definitely so. And like you said, a lot of things to parry in the top lane. I believe Aatrox has, considering he's got 3 knockup with his Infernal Chains, that is 4 different opportunities you have as Fiora to parry a piece of CC. And it is gonna be a really, really rough time in the top lane for the side of Evils. And I think the comp on the side of UBTenacity is just really good, especially with the Fiora counter pick over towards the top side. For me, I'm expecting for the side of UBTenacity to continue their streak and take this game just because I think this Kindred is gonna have a really, really rough time considering you have a losing top lane. You do have a bot lane that gets pushed, but I would argue in an all-out fight, I would prefer the Ashe over the Sivir. Same thing with the Janna. So definitely for me, my eyes are gonna be on this jungle matchup and on this Kindred because if the side of E-Wolves can get this Kindred going, if they can get her with some marks early on into the game, I think she can really pop off. But it's gonna be so hard to execute that. And based on game one, I'm not entirely sure if they have it in them. But for me, it'll be really interesting to see and really interesting to find out because if it does work out, this Kindred through this could potentially become a power pick that other teams are gonna have to potentially be scared for.
Yeah, and I'm actually gonna put my money here. If I would put money on a team, I would put it on the Eagles here. I think it's really hard to play draft, and I have the feeling that the draft of UBTenacity is better. But on the other side, there are a lot of champions that you can perform on well, like the Aatrox. If you have a really good game on Aatrox, you can kind of win the mid game with that. The Kindred can snowball really hard, so a lot of champs that you can individually win the game with. And I'm really excited to see it here. Who do you have on your uh, on your side?
I think for me, I'm gonna have to side with UB Tenacity, just because of that Fiora pick in top lane and the fact that they have that winning matchup, as well as the Kindred on the other side. Like I said earlier, gonna be a really, really rough game. And for me, it'll be interesting to see how they pilot it. But for me, it is gonna be UB Tenacity. And if they end up taking game two, I doubt we'll see much of a response all night out of the Evils and might be a potential 3-0.
Yeah, we will see that in a bit. We will also go into a small break with some English punk music again. And we will be back as soon as we hop into the next game. So sit tight.
I wanna see the Constitution burn. Wanna watch the White House overturn. Wanna witness some blue blood bleed red. Wanna come and lead the KKK. Wanna pull and shoot the NRA. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Murder the government. Murder the government. Burn
We're expecting 2 inches of snow on this fine Christmas morning, which is average. Totally average.
All right, and we are back in the game. And there's a pause instantly coming out. Um, and we immediately unpaused again. I think there will be a small delay, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe the pause was too short. What are you saying about the rune choice here?
I think Riot might be waiting for us to get into a fight before they pause. Yeah, you see, you see, I knew. I know how these people work, but yeah, definitely it's just a little bit of spectator bug. When the game gets paused, it tends to freeze for a little bit, so the game can catch itself back up. It's not like Riot can actually make a functioning game anyway. With their 200 years of developing experience, so it's just something we have to sometimes deal with on the spectator client. But like you said, looking at the runes and summoners, I'm not really seeing anything too out of the ordinary so far on either side. We do see Surety with the Grasp of the Undying, which is something we generally see if you're opting to nowadays into melee matchup, just because the stacks are really easy to gather. Fate Rush on Mopo just to catch people a little bit faster. Interestingly enough, Ictis opting for the Arcane Comet plus the Ignite combo instead of the Glacial Augment, which means, like I said earlier, this bot lane is going to be really aggressive on the side of UBTenacity.
Yeah, Ictus going again for a really, really aggressive choice. Same as he did on the Rakan. That being said, now we have hopefully some time to talk about some behind the scenes stuff. Um, I last game I said that you have 3 finalists on the team of UBTenacity. That is true, yes, but we also have an Manta Cup winner on the side of the E-Wolves, Krishy. He was back on the Black Manta roster that won the first Manta Cup. He only played 1 game though. He was a substitute back then, and he played 1 game, which was the opening match where he picked Ziggs bot lane, and he went 1-9. So he got the Manta Cup. He basically won the Manta Cup with 1-9 and a 0% win rate. But yeah, he's still a title winner.
Makes for a good story, no? Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely. It is good to see that he has been performing a little bit better this time around than he did last time. And of course, that last game, it was for the most part Ictus who sort of just ran around the map and just did Ictus things. This time around, he is on the Janna, which does still get a lot more movement speed than the Rakan, so can potentially look to go for it again. Ictus, in my opinion, as a player, has a really, really aggressive playstyle, which is something we saw in that game one. We even see it to now, where now that he's on the Janna, instead of Delph, he's opting in for the Ignite Comet, sorry, just for that aggressive poke lane and that poke damage. But you can see the pings going up towards the bottom side of the map as well as Mopo making his way in. There's a gank in the mid lane. Meanwhile, though, Hikoge could be a little bit of trouble mid they will does not have the damage to quite take him out so far, which is gonna get knocked back. It's gonna be forced to flash on out. The Deadly Flourish is gonna land onto Ictus though. You can see some damage being traded back, but Ictus gonna live to tell another tale. Ping's going forward though, mentally unstable. As for Mobile in the jungle, that's gonna be the flash out of the Poppy, as mentally unstable is gonna find the opposing jungler. But look where the mark is. It's on the other side of the map. There could be a potential double crab here, but the top lane prio is gonna be for the side of UBTenacity. Danger in the mid lane though. Lina falling very low on HP. Hikoge, my friend, you need to be a little bit careful here because guess what? There's a Kindred in your lane, mentally unstable in the mid lane. Gonna try and get a gank off, but should be completely fine. On the side of UBTenacity, Hikoge is gonna make his way on out. Big winner, mentally unstable though, is gonna get both crabs and his mark. This is a great start for the Kindred.
Yeah, no kills falling here, but you can already see 4K gold lead, no, for 400 gold lead, a small gold lead all over the board. And yeah, as you said, the mark and both crabs for the Kindred, which will make her stronger more earlier into the game.
Yeah, definitely so. And of course, crabs not netting as much XP nowadays as they used to, not really being that not as important as they first were when they came out. But you can see a potential early dragon as well as it does spawn very, very soon that mentally unstable can look for. Although he is only level 3 and dragons tend to be pretty tanky nowadays, so might not opt into this early on. But with the prio from the bot lane out of the evils, can definitely look for that. You can see Mopo is gonna get the first base of the game. We'll see what he ends up picking up. Probably a longsword or two, I would assume, is gonna go instead for the boots and the double cloth armor to get himself a little bit more tankier, as we have a potential all in the top lane. It's gonna be a flash forward out of North Tempest. Gonna try to find the kill, but the slow with the parry not gonna be enough. But North Tempest already playing what is a counter pick very, very well.
Yeah, and I'm kind of confused about the flash here, and you see the level 6 coming in for the Fiora. And that's first blood. Yeah, I would be confused if that was going over for the Aatrox. Um, so yeah, Fiora now in a really, really good position. I don't think it was the right choice to flash onto the Fiora for the Aatrox because he didn't really have the kill pressure. It was only his last Q. He didn't have ult yet. He didn't really have AD build yet because he opted for the Dawn Shield. Um, oh, that's unfortunate. So yeah, now the matchup will get really, really rough. You can see one pickaxe on the side of the Aatrox, which is nice, but both the claw fields, which gives you the valuable cooldown reduction you really need on this Fiora, and the Sheen, which just makes her trades even more detrimental against the Aatrox.
Yeah, especially with the playstyle you play when you have the grasp, so you just queue in and pretty much suffer for the poke. Now that you have the Sheen, it's just gonna hurt that much more. And the big thing is, the Grand Challenge was not issued, which means that is still gonna be up, but this gank in the top lane might change things as Mentally Unstable has made his way in short. He's gonna just dash forward as he's out of vision. That's gonna be the Grand Challenge coming on out though, but Mentally Unstable, too much damage on this Kindred is gonna find a kill in the top lane. Not entirely sure if he had the mark onto Shorty. Not sure if he's on 1 or 2 at the moment, but can look for the dragon on the other side while mentally unstable. Might try to play in the mid lane here.
Yeah, and as we could see 1 second ago, he's actually on 1 mark.
Oh,
Um,
interesting pop blossom coming out in the mid lane as mentally unstable gonna find his way on in. That's gonna be the stun actually landing though. Hikoge
oh,
is gonna be in trouble. I really thought he was gonna live out of that one, but is gonna go down this time on our mentally unstable. Is gonna force to flash over the wall as summoners are being burnt left, right, and center here out of everybody. But Hikoge with a little bit of a confusing pop blossom in the mid lane does mean that the side of evils are actually going to be up in gold and up in kills this time around.
yeah, and I think that was great synergy by the Kindred and the Lux. Lena and Mentally Unstable, just going after the Nico, hitting all their spells, and in the end getting that kill, and both coming out alive, needing to burn their flesh to get away from Moppo on the Poppy. And now it looks like a different game than last time. You have nearly 1k gold lead um, for the E-Wolves, and you see a trade in top lane.
There is a little bit of a trade on top lane. Mobo is around though, which means this 1v1 is going to turn into a 2v1 very, very quickly. North Tempest could be in a little bit of trouble, but Shorty is falling very, very low. It does not look like he's got the hands on the Fiora as the parry ends up coming out a little bit too early in that trade, even with the Infernal Chains on hitting onto Short. Should be a free parry for him, but Voraxer could be in trouble now in the bot lane. Deadly Flourish, he's gonna go a little bit wide there, unfortunately. He's gonna miss out on that, but you can see Mopo still is around in the top lane. This time the parry is going to come on through just in time. Short now is going to fall very little on HP. The Grand Challenge was issued onto North Tempest Vitals. Still two to be procced, but he's going to just make out by the skin of his teeth. Shorty not having a good time in that top lane. And you can see the side of Evils are just corralling into the side of UBTenacity's jungle here. Roxer is going to step out of the stun, but Ictus is going to find his way in onto the enemies. He's going to put the ultimate as well to try to keep himself safe, but Rishi picks up the kill with the bouncing Betty. The grenade comes on in Roxer now. Stuck under tower versus 3 potential versus 4. Hikoge is going to be our keep your eyes on this pop blossom that Nico. It could make the difference. Your mental and stable keep in mind. does have the Lamb's Respite, so if the Pop Blossom does end up getting popped, you can just pop that ultimate as well to deny any damage, but it is just gonna be Koge who makes a run for the hills, and this top lane that looked so good for UBTenacity early on is not looking good so far.
Yeah, and I think this kill that they got on bot lane, that's really really nice. Quishy got it for the Jhin. Meanwhile, on the top side, you see that Moppo counter jungled the top side of Mentally Unstable and also secured the first Herald, which is so valuable because of plates, obviously. I think it's a blunder that they opted to go for the dive that was unsuccessful in the end, instead of just taking the Drake instead on bot side. Because now you look at the situation where UBTenacity both has this Herald and the first Drake, which is way more worth than one single kill on the Jhin.
Yeah, it is a little bit confusing macro-wise coming out from them, and you can see as well, like you said, the Drake being secured here. Moppo is going to be the one to pick that one on. In top lane, CS meanwhile does favor Noir Tempest, so do the levels. You can see he's level 9 to Shorties, level 8 as another Q is just going to land. The parry is not coming out when it should. You can see as well, looking at the individual gold 700 lead for Mentally Unstable mid lane and top lane are both pretty even for both sides, but Wishy with the kill he picked up earlier and a 30 CS lead on the Jhin is just gonna be ahead by about 1k gold, which is a big gold lead considering it is an AD carry as well.
Yeah, and I think this will make the game so interesting because, of course, the Herald will be dropped. That will be more gold for UBTenacity. It should be dropped soon because it's slowly running out. Um, but right now it looks like the Evos will be much, much more stronger in the mid game than last game. That being said, do you want another storyline, Dessa? A small one.
I always want lore updates.
All right. So we talked about Quishy. He won the Manta Cup, the first one, as a substitute, but he also played for Black Manta in Manta Cup 2 and 3. And the third one is the one that's important because he both played in the opening match in the group stage against UBTenacity. He lost there, but he also played in quarterfinals.
That is some interesting lore as there's a fight on the bot lane. Voroxer now could be a little bit of trouble. That's going to be the curtain call coming in, but is going to be denied by X. There's a great tornado out of him. You also more fighting in the top lane, and you can see Short is going to dash on, and this time around the grand challenge is going to be issued. But the one time he lands a parry is the one time Mentally Unstable is there, and he is going to pick up the kill. Even when Shorty does everything right, it goes also wrong, and even with the Poppy ultimate, the keeper's verdict is not going to be enough, and Shorty is going to pick up the Divine Sunder. I would assume there's a potential mythic on the other side as well, but even with that, the top lane so far you can see has gone the way of Mentally Unstable, has gone the way of Noir Tempest, because this Kindred I talked about so much being so pivotal to their early game success, needing to work, needing to sort of be played around, is exactly what's happening. And he's currently 2-0-2, and this is exactly what the side of what they needed to sort of get themselves ahead in the early game.
Yeah, I agree. So you can see the Herald being popped, and a potential dive. I don't think they are opting into the dive so far. Mentally Unstable being there, getting out some damage. The plating's going solely over to the Poppy. One plating, that is. One plating for the Herald, that's not that worth. So right now I think the E-Wolves are actually in a really, really good position.
Yeah, definitely are in a good position, especially when their jungler is as fed as he is. No mythic so far for Noir Tempest picked up, as he picked up both of the assists on those previous kills, which means not a lot of gold in his pocket. You can see the stun line in the mid lane, the Lina potentially solo killing Hikoge here. You can see an assist is going to come through for Mentally Unstable, basically a solo kill in the mid lane as Shorty. He's gonna land up parry in the top lane. Still a rough matchup for Noir Tempest, as Fjord just has so much damage. That's gonna be the second Q not landing quite yet. Grand Challenge is gonna be issued World Ender, not gonna be available for the other side, as it's gonna be the Vitals proc healing coming through Shorty. It's gonna get Noir Tempest very low on HP there, but you can see meanwhile in the bot lane there is some territory being contested. Mentally Unstable now is just gonna be looking for potentially some wolves to steal away. Moppo is just basically is gonna give that part of each jungle up. Doesn't want to take any early fights, and I do believe with this back, coming out from mentally unstable, him picking up another assist. Although he's gonna cancel his back, that is gonna mean that they are gonna get a wave pushed in the mid lane. That is because there is a mark for him on the top side of the map. He's gonna secure this, and this is a Kindred that's got off to a roaring start and should be his fourth mark of the game.
Yeah, and I think this Kindred will be really strong, picking up the Trinity Force as soon as he is recalling. Um, there was one small detail that I wanted to add, but then a fight broke out in the bot lane, which is yes, they played against each other in the quarterfinals, and that was where UBTenacity eliminated Black Manta. So for Quishy, it's actually a revenge time here. He has to prove that he can stand up to this team that eliminated him 1 year ago.
It is a revenge story on all fronts and just makes things that much more exciting, doesn't it, for these two teams? And you can see as well so far, Wishy with the one item and boots in his inventory has been doing just that. The CS numbers are looking great in the bot lane for this gen. So far, no items coming out for Veroxer, although you can see the vision being contested a little bit. It just needs to be a little bit careful because Wishy definitely does hurt with the Stormways. That can be the curtains called as well, but what the decision is wrong on the sides. Veroxer meanwhile is gonna walk on and keep on. Wishy has the ghost. It has the flash, has the cleanse. No ghost on this Jin. Is gonna burn the flash to get himself on out. The summoners traded down towards this bot lane. Meanwhile, Dragon started up here for the side of mentally unstable, but keep your eyes on Hikoge. This man has flash, this man has pop blossom, this man's got a great flank if he does want it, but without Mopo being around, it's not a fight they want to take, and that's gonna be the Dragon going over to mentally unstable, and this man is absolutely on fire this game as the Hex Gates are going to activate.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see the Hex Soul here. As I said before, it's always exciting to see how the players deal with those Hex Gates. And I think the E-Wolves are in a really, really strong position here to win this mid game and maybe potentially find their first real win condition. That being
Yeah,
said, yeah, you can see the first mythics coming in, the Trinity Force, the Luden's Echo on both sides on the mid lane and the Sun on top lane, and you should slowly see the other mythics as well. The Divine Sandra will be picked up by the Poppy most likely in a few minutes. Both junglers being on 2 marks left, two of their jungle pet stacks. So we also see upgrade smites in a few minutes or few seconds.
yeah, and I did want to ask you as well as we are heading into the mid game. In your opinion, when you're looking at the draft of these two teams, who would you favor heading into this mid game, just based on the comps and not necessarily the numbers?
So I think that the comp of E-Wolves is really skill reliant. Like you need to perform on the Aatrox, on the looks. You need to hit the spells, and also on the Kindred engine. You need to be able to get that damage out. And I think the one of UBTenacity is easier to oh my god, I'm missing the word.
Execute?
To execute, yeah, right. Thank you very much. That being said, I think the champions that are stronger are on the side of the E-Wolves, the Aatrox and the Jhin, both being really, really strong in mid game. Also, the Lux is starting to get into an area where she can actually one-shot the squishies.
Yeah, definitely getting into an area where she does a lot of damage, especially with the Ludens now being finished up as well. There's gonna be a ton of burst damage coming through out of Lina with the final spark as well. And speaking of Lina, kind of has been a little bit quiet this game outside of the kill in that mid lane, and that's kind of what I expected coming out of this matchup. You can see the Nico and the Lux not having too much kill pressure. Hikoge is gonna find a kill in the mid lane though. Delph is just gonna walk into that one. It's gonna be one for one at the end of the day. Meanwhile, fight in the top lane is gonna pop out as well. Shorty kind of fully commit to that one, but does not get the end. Does not get the winning trade on that end. Wishing now is gonna be a little bit under threat in under tower, but should be completely fine and still a one for one in the mid lane.
Yeah, and we should see the first tower going down in the top lane for the Aatrox, which is a lot of gold again into his pocket. And you can see the gold lead going up to 4k gold right now. Um, Who do you think will be in prime position for the next Drake for the second? It's showing Inferno Drake. It's a Hextech Drake, so don't be confused. Um, who do you think will be in prime position for that one?
Yeah, you gotta sometimes you gotta not trust Riot. Sometimes you gotta trust your own eyes, as we have a grand challenge issued in the top lane, though Nora Tempest now could be a little bit under threat. The parry's gonna come on through shortly now. Potential solo bolo here. That's gonna be a lot of healing out of Nora Tempest with the auto attack. That's gonna be a great dodge coming out. Flash for flash in the top lane, just showing the mechanics on these two men up there. Shortly being 1 HP. Nora Tempest just so damn strong on this Aatrox with the Gorginger finished up as well, and that's going to be the vital pop. A lot of HP recovered here by Short. This could be potential trouble for Nora Tempest, but he is just going to be able to run himself on out. Dragon now ends up not being secured quite yet, as it's still going to be up in 1 minute, but potential recall cancel over towards the top side of the map. Ignis just a little bit too far out, unfortunately, on that one. My friend does not get it off. And you can see as well, Lena has finished up her second item. So the big question on our hands, like you posed earlier, Linus, who is stronger when it comes to this Drake contention? And I think it is going to be the side of E-Wolves, just because you've got the 3-0 mid lane with the 2-0 jungler, as well as the top lane looking so damn strong. You there could be trouble in the bot lane. Pop Blossom going to be popped here, but there's so many members around. It is a 5v1 and not a 5v1. You win in that situation. Too many members for Colgate to handle, as the E-Wolves end up pouncing on the mid lane as they pick up another kill, with Drake just seconds away from spawning. This one should be free pickings for the side of the E-Wolves.
Yeah, and I'm kind of confused about the flash of Mentally Unstable. Maybe he thought there are more people behind the Nico. I don't think the Nico has the damage yet to completely one-shot Kindred before dying herself. That being said, they are now on 2 Drakes, getting the Hextech Drake. And yeah, they are slowly getting stronger and stronger, and it gets harder and harder for the comp of UBTenacity to really do something, because you have champions that make it hard for your opponent to get onto you. You have the Poppy with both her W and the ult. You have the Nico with her CC and her really, really strong ult. And the snipe by Quishy and Lina onto the Janna. Um, just starting to get really dangerous with the range.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit out of hand, I feel like, for the set of UBTenacity. Is another 1v1 in the bot lane. Insus this time around. Noir Tempest is going to just out the way of the parry, but the Worldlander is going to be popped. So with the Grand Challenge, you can see him playing the wall with the Vital. The Vital is not going to be popped shortly. Doesn't get his hands on it. Tries to dash for it, but does not get the pop. It's going to be a solo bolo in the bot lane. Out Noir Tempest will like in the top lane. He's going to get the pop blossom on him. Keep his the Lamp's Respite is going to be available. The stun comes out through. That's going to be a great enchanted crystal arrow. Is it going to be enough to kill the Kindred? The answer is going to be no. As now Kikoge is still going to be in trouble. Here comes the Grand Challenge. Here comes the quickness, as Delph is going to pick that one on up. Keep on Roxer does still have the slow, does still have the kite to play around. Flash forward, ghosting, flashing. Everyone's using the summoner spells back and forth. Ignis now going to be
And
under
there's
a little
coming
bit of
Lina.
threat, as the curtain call is going to be popped here. Lina is going to make his way her way onto the top lane as well. Gonna pick up another kill. Mopo, meanwhile, has made his way on in. Gonna flash onto Wishy now. The ultimate is gonna come out as well. Can he push him into the wall? The answer is gonna be yes, as the stun is gonna come on through. You can see Wishy doing a great job of cutting this one out. Mopo
Oh
is gonna
no!
pick up the kill just at the back end of the fight. Another kill over to Lina, dominating in the mid lane, as the Lux is gonna be 6-0. And what a fight for the side of the Wolves.
Yeah, and it was looking really bad at first, but then there was Lina coming in, killing the Ashe, and then later also the Poppy. That being said, there was a bit of an oopsie by Quishy on the Jhin. Like, he stepped out of it. He was safe, and he decided he wants to go for some more damage onto the Poppy, even though he didn't need to. And he stepped back into the queue of Poppy, getting the second activation into his face, and dying unnecessarily. That being said, I think you can really see how hard it is for the side of UBTenacity to get on top of the E-Wolves. They had such a good momentum there with the Shureyas, with the Ashe, but they just couldn't really get onto it, because your main engage is the Crystal Arrow, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow by Ashe. And besides that, you don't really have that much going for your team. And I think that will make it so hard for this UBTenacity side to do anything on the map, because they just can't be proactive as much as they would like to.
Yeah, definitely cannot be. You can see Shorty in the bot lane, though this man could be in a little bit of trouble as the pig. He's gonna have to use the plant to get over the wall, but Lina with the final spark is gonna force out the parry, which means Del can go in for the CC. The CC is not gonna land as wishy. Not gonna pop the final fourth shot crit, and plus Gale 4 is going to be enough to execute, which scored it down towards the bot lane. But Shorty with being dead means the numbers are a little bit short on the side of UBTenacity. Side of Evils are going to be encroaching onto potentially a Baron start here for their side. You can see Mentally Unstable walking very aggressively towards the pity. Is going to be starting this one out for us. Lina is to be a little bit careful in the mid lane. Keep in mind she is all on her lonesome as the rest of the boys are going to be starting this Baron buff on up. That he's going to do a lot of damage onto Roxor in the mid lane. Mopo, meanwhile, is going to be forced out by Noir Tempest. No access to the pit thus far. Delph falling on very, very low on HP. He's going to jump in quickness. That's what coming up. Final spark hits onto 2. That is a great ultimate out of Lina towards the mid lane. Roxor, meanwhile, is going to try to 1v1 Noir Tempest. That is a no 1v1 you want to be taking, my friend, as the Aatrox is quite a lot bigger than you. He's quite strong in the top lane. Baron Nashor is going to be slaying a 10,000 gold lead. And this, if you compare to game 1, Linus is looking like an absolute stampede.
Yeah, and like I said before, it's really hard for UBTenacity to find anything. And you could see how well Noah Tempest was just zoning them away together with Delph. The Baron now coming through, and we have an 11k gold lead. And I think this will we're slowly getting to a point where it takes a miracle for UBTenacity to get back onto the Evils. What do you think? Will we see a comeback here? All right.
Well,
Bye Ictus.
I think that the timing on that can answer the question better than I ever could. As Lina ends up catching out Ictus in their own jungle. This is, in my opinion, one of those cases where it's a little bit too late. Of course, anything can still happen. If you can find a good team fight, there are a lot of shutdowns on the side of Evils to collect. If you can find a couple of kills for your side, but at this point, Lina's got 3 items. We just saw what she did to Ictus with 1 root. There are no members on the side of UBTenacity that are straight tanks against Lina because the one tank they have has opted fully to go into armor against all the other AD threats. And this is the thing. When you see a single AP threat on the enemy team, it never feels good to build magic resist just against them, just to face them. But when you're looking at this,
Yeah, that's
I
the
think you
tank.
might need to opt in for a little bit of magic resist at the end of the day.
Yeah, the tank being completely one shot by the by Lina here. And you can see he immediately goes to the shop, is like, hey, can I get some magic resist? But he just doesn't have the gold to get tanky. Like one MR item is not enough to stand up to this Lux. That's so dangerous.
Yeah, that at this point is the issue because, like you said, you need more than one MR item. And Lina's got Shadow Flame as well, so she already has the magic pen. You can see them now encroaching onto the base of UBTenacity. Populus is gonna be absolutely huge,
Oh
hitting
my
onto
god.
everybody. Is it gonna be enough damage? Also, Lamb's Spite is keeping everybody alive. Baroxer left to his own devices, and Hikoge finally finds the hero play, but it is not enough as Mopo is the only survivor, the lone sheep running into the base. It ends up being a evil victory with what I would describe is a pretty dominating fashion.
Yeah, I agree. And what a strong performance actually by the Evo's team, especially by Lina. Let me just fix the score on the screen. I mean, you could just see how she was performing on the slugs, getting kills again and again. Um, I think it's so interesting to see how she gets banned out. Like saw the Oregon away, you saw the Victor gone, the Sandra gone, and also the Syndra gone. And she picked up Lux. We were questioning what can she do on that Lux? Is she able to have an impact? And she said, yes, fuck off. I'm gonna just one shot everyone, including the tank. And we're now at 1-1 and looking at a third game.
Yeah, definitely gonna be an interesting third game as well because we've seen So far, two varying games out of these two teams, and as well as two different strategies altogether. So heading into the third game, I wanna see just something out the bag. This is keep in mind only a show match. So if you wanna pull out something crazy, if you wanna do something wacky like a Tariq or an Aphelios top, a little bit of a throwback to a Greasy Goblin meme, and just pull the rabbit out of the hat and ace up your sleeve. I think this is where you want to do it. This is the moment to limit test a little bit if you're in for it. But Linus, what do you want to slash looking to see out of this game three?
I want to see how both teams will adapt. I believe that UBTenacity will be playing blue side again, so we can see whether or not Evils decide to ban out the Rakan, both times being really crucial for the winning team. And in the end, I want to see how the Evils change up the playstyle, if they change it up, or if they are saying like, hey, Jin worked, Lux worked, we're gonna pick that again. So I'm really excited for that. That being said, we're going into a small break before we head into the draft for game number 3. Hello and welcome back to this awesome show match. It's been so exciting. Last game was less um, a bit less close than the first game, but now we're looking at a 1-1 series. Dessa, what are you thinking about this matchup?
I think so far it's been really exciting out of both sides. I mean, looking at game one, I think it was fair to say that Eagles just looked a little bit lackluster in that game one, and they just said, screw this, came back in game two with an absolute banger of a performance 23 to 5 with a 16,000 gold lead is what they ended the game on. An absolute banger out of Lina and mentally unstable in the jungle made the Kindred work after all. But heading into this third game now, bans so far not changing a whole lot. We see the same 3 bans out of the E-Wolves. We see so far the same 2 bans out of UBTenacity. I expected for it to be the same draw as well, but this is the question. We saw all these bans last game as well, and Lina still went 10-0-6. Is there really anything you can ban away that's gonna lock away Lina's capabilities? Because so far the side of UBTenacity has tried and they have not succeeded.
Yeah, I agree. And we see the Rakan coming out again as the first pick, same as game 1 and 2. And we also see the Nico being picked earlier now, as it seems. I hope I'm not baited by the hover. No, it's the Nico earlier. And this is really interesting because last time we saw the Nico, yes, on the mid lane, um, but now for Hikoge, but now it's a flex actually for the mid lane and support, which makes it a bit more interesting. We see the Jarvan hover, and I like this pick. I like the Jarvan, I like proactivity. And I think the Jarvan is really, really strong at the moment.
Yeah, I think it also helps. I've always been a fan of of champions and comps that let you dictate when you choose the fights, let you dictate when you go in instead of sort of just sitting around and waiting for the enemy team to go in. In the game previously to this one, the Nico did not look too good in the hands of Hikoge. Ended up going 1-on-6. There was one multi-man good pop blossom, which was when their Nexus was blowing up, and at that point it was a little bit too late, especially with the Kindred on the other side. Looks like it is going to be the Kindred once more on the side of the E-Wolves. Did great in that game too, so I'm not at all surprised. Should be a mid laner picked up here for their side, considering the Nico was already revealed very, very early on the side of UBTenacity. But I'm very much looking forward to the response they're gonna have in the mid lane, just because, like you said, heavy bans towards Lina so far. The Lux and the Victor are both still open, which we've both seen today, but gonna opt into the Caitlyn instead. A blind AD in the bot lane, as in either support or AD has shown, has me a little bit confused about this pick.
Yeah, I think the Caitlyn is a really ballsy pick here against the Jarvan, possibly against a completely undrafted bot lane so far. The Nico could still go mid lane, and that makes it really, really dangerous to pick it here. I like the confidence though, saying, "Hey, we know you can pick stuff. I'm gonna pick Caitlyn here. I'm better than you. I'm gonna win the early game. I'm gonna use the range advantage." And you can see the Varus as an answer to the Caitlyn here. And the big question now is the Nico support? Is it mid lane? And what will the bans be for the second rotation? Will Lina get banned, get her looks banned away? Will she get the Victor and the Lissandra banned away? You can't ban all three. You need to pick one at least. And there's the Gragas ban.
Yeah, the Gragas ban is something we saw earlier on as well, and I would have loved to see personally UB Tennessee just slam down a Tristana here and say, you know what, we're just gonna go balls deep, we're just gonna go ham, because Tristana is an excellent pick into the Caitlyn, very easy to get on top of her. I also personally think Tristana is not in that bad of a spot at the moment. Of course, generally nowadays played more in the mid lane as a counter pick towards some of these more scaling mages like Ari, for example, like the Victor. But I think if you pick the Tristana in the bot lane here and pair her up with a good engaged support, I think you can absolutely ruin the day of the Evils, especially since it is going to be wishy on this Caitlyn, who, granted, has looked pretty good today in both of these games, but Caitlyn thus far is unseen. So this is going to be his third unique champion of tonight as well. It's going to be the Lissandra being banned away, which means both the Victor and the Lux are going to remain open.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what's being picked here. If the UBTenacity is like if UBTenacity is gonna opt in to pick the Victor themselves, and then look into the face of a Lux or maybe some other pick that we haven't seen so far, or if they're gonna pick something else here, maybe top lane to keep the Nico flex alive. We'll see it in 1 second. And it's the Aatrox. The Nico flex is alive. Shorty is saying, you know what? You've picked Aatrox into my Fiora. I counterpicked you. I lost. I'm gonna just pick it himself. You can counterpick me now, and we will see what you can do. And I like that confidence coming out from Shorty.
Yeah, I think it's just great, especially considering how the last game went. right? You could see how much work Nora Tempest ended up doing, even when he got counterpicked. Just Shorty not having a great game for himself on the Fiora. Going to be the Irelia this time around. That is an explosive pick in the top lane. Can of course flex into the mid lane if necessary, but I expect that regardless of the lane it goes, it is gonna be the matched up against Aatrox. Not entirely sure how the matchup goes since I'm not a top lane connoisseur myself, Linus. I know you play a little bit of top lane, so maybe you can open it up for us a little bit more.
I think the Irelia is a bit less of a skill matchup, or a bit less of a favorite matchup into the Aatrox compared to the Fiora. I think Fiora has an easier way of defeating the Aatrox. That being said, it's still a really, really high skill matchup, and if the Irelia plays it really well, she can just dodge the Qs of the Aatrox and just do a lot of damage, just run him down, and in the end, if Noah Tempest on this Irelia can skill check Chordy again, he can just overrun this Aatrox. And now we see a Fizz as an answer to the Lux. The Nico being flexed indeed to the bot lane, and the Fizz as an answer, an unorthodox pick into the Lux.
Yeah, it is gonna be the Nico in the bot lane with the Varus. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that heading into something like a Caitlyn who can output so much high damage in such a short burst if you know how to combo her correctly. Especially when you have a CC support like Rakan, who you can pair her up with, which she's gonna be paired up with this time around as well. Like you said, the Lux again in the mid lane, but this time I feel like it's gonna be a little bit more difficult of a game to play because you're looking at a Nico, you're looking at a Fizz in the mid lane, an assassin that's so good at dealing with these immobile mages and just has that hop to get you out of difficult situations. A very annoying champion to play against as well, especially later on into the game once that hop becomes a little bit lower off a cooldown. But as well as playing against the Jarvan, playing against the Nico, so much more engaged on side of UBTenacity this time around. It's not gonna be an easy job to Lina to survive all of this heat coming out from the other team, but as well as a lot more early game coming out from the side of UBTenacity, which means I feel like getting these marks for mentally unstable not going to be as easy in this game as it was in like game number 2. So I think there is gonna be a lot of scrapping for these marks, and trust me, I'm all here for it.
Yeah, I think both comps really skill dependent. Champions like the Fizz, like the Kindred, like the Jarvan, the Aatrox, the Irelia, so many champs that in competitive can sometimes fall a bit short. They are not that being picked that often because you require a lot more individual skill to make them worth. And I'm really excited to see who on those gems will perform the best and who will carry their team to the win. I will put my money here. If I would put money on anyone here, I will put it on the Evolves just because I'm so confident that Lina will perform again. Like that Lux was so good. Yes, it's a harder matchup, but I still think she will perform here. What's your bet on this?
I think that's definitely fair, especially considering how the last game went. But I'm gonna have to choose a different side this time around. I think when you're looking at champions like the Fizz into this many squishies, yes, you have the Lamb's Respite, but even then, I feel like this Fizz is gonna be such a pain to play against. It's gonna be so annoying. Just have to deal with this little trickster all up in your back lines, just one-shotting your Lux, one-shotting your Caitlyn, and then you're gonna have the death ball of the Jarvan, the Nico, the Aatrox all barreling into you. And yeah, the Kindred is a really good pick into that, but there's just not a lot of tankiness and a lot of front line on the side of the E-Wolves compared to the Jarvan, the Aatrox on the other side. So I think they're just gonna run. I think at the end of the day, the side of the Evils are just gonna run out of HP. They're gonna run out of tankiness to tank all this damage out of the other side. Then again, I think if it's a fair fight, 5v5, where there is no Fizz flanks, where the Fizz doesn't get access to the backline, I think it should be Evil's favored, just because the raw DPS. But I think if this Fizz can make a mockery in this backline, if he can do his little trickster things, if he can just hop and bounce around, it's gonna be really tough to play against. And I think a lot of it is gonna rely on this mid lane, which is sort of the story we've said today all along. It's gonna rely on the mid lane, and I think it is gonna be the exact same situation this time around. But like you said, money's being placed down, bets are being made. I'm gonna go with UB Tenacity for our last game of the day.
Awesome. That being said, we'll go into a short break till the game opens up in like 2 or 3 minutes. So enjoy some more music till we are back.
I wish that we were on TV, just like in Pokemon. You'd be a Pika girl in the Poke world. Yes, life would be so fun. I'd be a trainer boy and I would make the choice to go and search for you. I'd throw my Pokeball and I would catch them all. You'd be my Pikachu. You're my Pika girl in the Poke world. Oh, I want the gym badge, but you want my heart. Pika girl in the Poke world, and now that I got you, we can never part. The Pokeball in my life's open for you. You're my Pika girl in the Poke world, just like a Pokemon.
All right, guys, we are back in game number 3. You see an invade coming out from the E-Wolves on top side. They tried that last time, didn't work. Will work
But
this
this
time.
time, running into Shorty. Man himself, gonna be some first try gold onto Lina, and like in game 2 Linus, this time around the invade is also not going to work. You can see a lot of pings onto the head of Shorty right there, just a little bit of meme, but keep in mind guys, that is not Moppo, that is actually Ictus on the Nico. Gonna actually pop some damage onto Mentally Unstable there with the Electrocute. Just
And
to
that's
basically damage
60 gold. 60 gold it should be 60 gold. Let me check. 65 gold going over for the Nico. A small lead here.
Oh,
Let's see if that's
that's
important for the
huge.
lane.
Uh,
Deciding not to get another potion. Yeah.
what you do here? You take away 1 minion off of your AD carry. You opt in for a quick controller in CG.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was an interesting flash by Voroxa. All right. I actually have two more storylines for you. Do you want to hear the first one?
okay. This is the DLC package we all came here for. The
Yeah.
storylines of the Manta Cup. Let's go.
So basically, someone called Eki, he was also on the roster, I believe, of UBTenacity last time around, last tournament. Um, he is actually not being able to play. He was originally signed up for this Manta Cup, and you can see some heavy trading in the top lane. Crazy. Um, and he said that he can't make it, so they signed up Voroxa later to this roster, which meant that Voroxa will go into ADC and Ictus goes on support. So Voroxa is basically here for the first time, being an emergency sub, if you want it like that. And it's really exciting to see if he can fill those shoes. And that's a dive.
Ooh, the so far you're seeing some peak gameplay here. This is This is not really what I expected heading into this game, considering how game 2 ended up going. You can see as well just the pure damage coming out of Hikoge in the mid lane. This is why you pick the Fizz into this immobile assassin. Also, great training back coming up from Lina there, but yeah, this is a little bit rough of an early game. Roxor's accidental flash into Noir, just taking a kind of free tower shot in the top lane, is not ideal. Not really something you want to see, but you can see as well some heavy training in the top side, like you said. Mentally unstable is going to be a little bit low off HP. The enhanced route is going to come on at death, probably a little bit off a shield, but I feel like there would be a
Oh,
dive in
they're
front of us
diving.
here. Ashord is going to be a little bit of a pickle here. The mark is going to come through. That's going to be the flash out of mentally
We see
unstable and
some
Nord
really weird
desperate,
flashes
but
this game, not gonna lie.
it's a 1-for-1. That's, I mean, in my opinion, that's a disaster for the side of you burn 2 flashes and still a 1-for-1. That is rough.
I mean, you still get the assist, which is 150 extra gold. You get the top wave shoved in, which is nice for the area. So I think it's okay. It went okay, but it didn't went as they planned it. If you get out without giving the kill over to the Aatrox, who is now on a jerk in 4 minutes, I think then they look a lot stronger. Yeah, I think the teams look kind of shaky. Maybe they are nervous. They are being streamed. Everyone is looking at them. Whoever wins here looks strong for the Manta Cup. If the E-Wolves win here, they could take one of the like top 4, top 5 spots in the favorite ranking for everyone. Because right now UBTenacity is here. On the other side, UBTenacity has to prove that they can still be as good as last time, even without their prime star weak side wizard.
Yeah, there is a lot to lie on this game 3, and we did end up seeing a flash trade in the mid lane. Although now the enhanced trade coming to the Delphi's just dead. The piercing arrow ends up being
Burst
too much
damage.
for him to handle. Roxor with a great deal of, like you said it yourself, Linus, burst damage coming on in. And with the flash trade in the mid lane, Lina is gonna be in a precarious situation because Mopo can, with the flash of his own, try to force a play into the mid lane. Koge should be hitting level 6 very soon as well. And once that ultimate comes on in, it should be a not a good time for Lina in the mid lane. But Ictus so far has done great on this Nico, wouldn't you say so, Linus?
Yeah, I think this Nico is really, really showing up, hitting lots of roots and also lots of damage. You can see how deadly that comp can be with the Varus. Just so much damage coming through. And now Krishy is in a really sad situation. He needs to recall. He's not recalling. That's really, really dangerous here with the Nico being transformed into a minion, I believe. Um, yeah, you can see the
Uh,
minion just walking onto Delph and then recalling.
World Ender popped in the top lane though. Noir Tempest is gonna be committed out here. Shorty now gonna take the 1v1. This should be a winning fight as the level difference is gonna be too much for Noir to handle. But can he make his way out of this situation? Can he use the Irelia magics? The dashes are coming on out. Can't see Shorty's gonna miss both of the Qs in the bush stun as well. Noir Tempest
Oh
gonna be
no.
out, but the infernal chains are too damn much. And there's the play in the mid that I was talking about. That's gonna be forced with Lina not having the flash. The chum in the waters are too damn much for the little mage up against the big fish, as it's gonna be some kills traded on all across the map. But so far, so far the red side here coming out of UBT is gonna be the ones that are in favor, considering they're ahead by 4 kills, as well as about to be a dragon. As Mopo is gonna be the one who's starting that one up. Should be no contested coming on through, as well as their side is gonna be the ones who have the gold. Mental stable, though. He's gonna be around. He's gonna path to get at least one of these kills. Ictus is gonna go down, but keep in mind, a Voroxer now is gonna be able to trade back. That's gonna be 2-for-1, as there are confusing moves all over the map here. The piercing arrow is not gonna hit, but Linus, I'm not entirely sure on what I'm watching here.
Yeah, me as well. Like there are just decisions that are coming through that are just weird. I feel like people are just clowning more than ever. Um, Same as Voroxa. Like yeah, he got the kills here, or maybe he lives. Oh, that's close. But you can see that Voroxa's flash is not up anymore. I don't know if you saw it. but he basically flashed for an auto attack into shield on Caitlyn, I believe, which basically did nothing. He was like, yeah, my flash is back up. Let me throw it out of the window again. I don't need it anyway. And apparently he doesn't because he's 3-0 on this Varus, being ahead 20 CS and 1,300 gold.
I mean, this man is basically playing without a summoner spell, and he's still doing all this work as, hang on, there's an Ictus in the top lane. I didn't even see that, as he's gonna be able to get the stun in, but there's gonna be 2v1 out of Nora Tempest. Keep in mind, Nora Tempest is 2 levels above this little Nico, as if this is gonna flash over the wall into his own death. Another
Yeah,
confusing move coming out from the side of from the red side here, but you can see as we're looking at the individual gold shorty, it's gonna be up by about 600, and this Aatrox gonna be pretty strong as well.
yeah, and I think we can just highlight how good that play was by Noah Tempest. I thought like, oh yeah, he is not seeing the Nico inside the minions. I missed it at first as well. Um, and then he just turned around, killed the Aatrox, and then chased the Nico. Of course, Nico in the end falling to mentally unstable on the Kindred, who is now on 1 mark, just 1 mark. Could be more, should be more. We will see if that gets more in the next minutes.
Yeah, it's not as explosive of a start on the Kindred as we had in that game number 2. But speaking of explosive starts, it is an explosive start for Hikoge in the mid lane on the Fizz. Already 2 on Olina this time around, not having a great game for herself thus far. You can see the O2 as well as the stopwatch in her inventory. Trying to keep that for a rainier day, and you can see so far Nora Tempest has done great on the Irelia to make sure that he's able to escape most of these precarious situations, but now Manta stable in the top lane is going to be making this a 2v1 instead of a 1v1 short. Going to be under threat as well. The stun is going to land. You can see Nora Tempest getting those stacks in the minion wave, just queuing it back and forth. Manta stable are going to be 1 HP. The Lamps Spite is going to be pot. Can he make his way over to his own tower? The answer is going to be yes, and he flashes out just in time. Gonna pick up the kill as well. Nora Tempest actually going to be the one to finish that one off. Another kill over to the Irelia, and so far this is a very even early game out of both these sides.
Yeah, and it was looking like it was slowly going into Stomp for UBTenacity just a few minutes ago, but the Earwolves, especially with Mentally Unstable and Noah Tempest, are finding ways to get back, to get some gold for them. And yeah, they are just not stopping to fight.
No, they are not. Another fight in the top lanes. The TP is gonna come on in Noir Temple. They're gonna be the one with full stacks here. Flash out, Shorty with a dash in. He's gonna get the kill. Moppo, meanwhile, is gonna be mentally stable in the top lane. River is gonna be the Iron Spike that's gonna be for now. The flag and drag is gonna be hopped on out as mentally stable is gonna skip and hop over the wall. You can see Delph is gonna get the control ward down towards the bot side of the map. Hikoge with another great trade in the mid lane. Electric doing so much work for him as that's gonna be him already with a mythic in his inventory. You can see Mopo though does have the tempo into potential mid lane if he does want it, but the root is gonna come on. Is gonna be enough to dissuade the dive potentially, but the stopwatch is gonna have to be burned, and that is a big cooldown coming out from Lena.
Yeah, actually, she needs to complete the Zhonya's first to get that one back up. She's not even on a mythic yet, and that Fizz is so dangerous in the 1v1. I don't think that she has anything to put against that Fizz so far.
Moppo though in the top lane gonna be able to get the flag and drag flash on in. I do believe he flashed after flag and drag hit, which is a little bit confusing once again in the top lane, but is gonna get the kill for himself nonetheless. Mid lane meanwhile ends with Hikoge falling shutdown gathered as well, and I'm starting to see a repeat of game 2 Linus, because this mentally unstable Kindred is once again starting to get himself fed and once again is 4-on-2.
Yeah, that as well. I think this is the game of the wasted flashes. Like you have seen so many bad flashes this game by Voroxa, by Noah Tempest, mentally. No, I don't think mentally unstable had one yet. But
Oh,
yeah,
that is a great chain of corruption, though, coming onto Mental
yeah.
Unstable. It's gonna be a kill collected by Voroxer. Koge gonna continue the chase. Delph, you're not in safe hands quite yet. A flash over towards closer to the wall just to get the dash over onto Lena. Moppo, though, meanwhile in the bot lane. But keep your eyes on the green hue, because that is not Moppo, my friends. That is Ictus down here. That is the Nico. Biko with the Pop Blossom is gonna be coming on in Wishy. Is gonna be just completely taken out right there. Ictus with a great play over to the bot lane. Gonna burn the Ignite as well. Another kill over to the side of UBTenacity, which does mean they are gonna be double the kills of Ewolves here, but still up to 3,000 gold, and they are the ones who is mainly on the Varus because Voxer finding himself at 5 on 0 so far.
Yeah, really strong here. You can see the Varus being so far ahead. You can see also the Aatrox being really strong. Apparently, Noah Tempest doesn't care. He just trades into the Aatrox, and he's winning. Oh no.
He was winning until Ictus makes a difference in the top lane. The Nico is just everywhere this game. And Noir Tempest definitely spam pinging Delph saying, "Where are you, my friend? I need the help up here." As you can see, he's 2 on 5. Shorty even opting for the early anti-heal as he has a little bit of gold left over, being 6 on 3 on this Aatrox. Mythic already finished up. You can see Borg as well in the inventory of Noir Tempest. So this already by no means is weak at the moment. You can see Koge, he's in the backlines though. This could get hairy quite quickly, but Delph gonna just dash his way on out, gonna shield up his members and gonna just get himself out of that situation.
Yeah, and I hope that we get some time to breathe here because I actually have one last storyline for everyone who wants to hear it. And that one is that you have teammates playing against each other on here. There's a team that was formed like 1 month ago, and on that team there is Noah Tempest on the jungle position, Krishy on ADC, and Mop on support.
Some team rivalries happening in front of our eyes as you can now see Delph rivaling with a bit of threat of his own. Voxer now gonna be as well walking around, gonna hop onto Wishy. Keep in mind this man has a chain of corruption as well as his inventory and the
Great
piercing arrow, but
cleanse.
the cleanse almost frame perfect right there out of Wishy. A bit more trading in the top lane though, as these two refuse to stop fighting at the bot lane is where our focus is on, as Wishy ends up just getting the base out. Delph is gonna fall to the charm of the water. North Tempest meanwhile is gonna be 1 HP, 1 smack, 1 drag, should be able to do it, as Lina is gonna miss the final spark. It's not gonna hit in the bot lane. It's not gonna get himself on. As Mentalist they will pop in the Lamb's
Oh,
Respite to keep himself back on alive. Solid little health bars down towards the spot side of the map, but Lina is gonna go to collect potentially Voxer here. Keep in mind the ultimate is not gonna be available. Ictus is gonna be around to support his AD carry as well, which is making his way back, but keep your eyes on Ictus because he's in the bush with the Pop Blossom ready at his and waiting. Wishy, you cannot walk that far, my friend, as the Pop Blossom ends up hitting another kill over to Voxer, and this game is just falling apart for both of these teams.
yeah, and I feel like we had a small break. At the beginning, it looked like UBTenacity was just steamrolling over the E-Wolves. Then the E-Wolves were like, hey, wait, we can still fight back. And they fought back for like 2 minutes and then it broke all apart again. And I think this game will be super hard for the side of the E-Wolves to play. To finish up my small storyline from a minute ago, yeah, you have Noah Tempest and Quishy against their teammate Mopo. The team is called Black Flag Sailors, who have like every of their players playing in this Manta Cup on different teams, on Black Manta, on the UBTenacity, on the E-Wolves, on Extraordinary. And I just think it's really cool to see how those players are playing against each other that are usually friends and comrades.
Yeah, and hopefully this does not disdain the friendships too far to the unrepairable waters, but you can see an engage in the top lane. Okage is going to be under threat here. Nortempest with a flash forward onto the phase. Ignite as well. Flash out from Hikage. It's going to be a flash follow-up. Yes, it will, but the bountiful sticks Alpha Hikage is going to get his way on out. A lot of cooldowns and Summoners burned for 1 fizz in the top lane. Shorty, meanwhile, is going to be under threat in the bot lane. Mental stable with a flash forward of his own. Everybody needs to spend their flash now, it appears, as everybody's just flashing back and forth. It seems like Lina is the only one with her flash up so far on the side of Evil still left. Couple still left on the side of UBTenacity, but this game has been even more explosive than our last game.
Yeah, an 800 gold shutdown going over to Quishy. Um, that can bring him back, and you can see that the tower will also fall, which will be an objective shutdown and the local gold going into the pockets of E-Wolves, mostly Quishy. And you can see that the gold gap is closing again.
Definitely is closing its way on in. Only 4,000 left to go, but 4,000 is still a mountain to climb for the side of E-Wolves. As you can see, the items are starting to come through for most of the people in this lobby as well. It is going to be the junglers, the mid laners, and the top laners with their first items, as well as the AD carries. With, like you said, Linus Wishy picking himself up a big shutdown, aiding his way onto that as well. Nora Tempest once again is just looking for the all in. This man refuses to stop fighting as he's just going in and in. Asakage is gonna be the one under threat this time on around. Mental and stable gonna be around as well. Lam's respite not gonna be popped. He doesn't want to keep his Irelia alive. The cooldown is gonna be saved. For now, Shorty's now gonna be finally forcing him to pop the Lamb's respite, but the boys have arrived. Mentally unstable is gonna finally have some backup. Is it gonna be enough? No, Shorty is gonna have himself the reset on the world under as well. Lina needs to be careful. Crown is gonna be available, but how much damage is it really gonna block? Because once it pops, there's all nothing to play for. As Invictus is gonna be around. Ictus now on the back lines. Wishy now under threat. That's going to be a triple kill for the red team. Shorty absolutely popping off in this fight. Can he pick up one more? Is it going to be the quadra kill for the Aatrox in the top lane? 4 kills picked up. The unofficial quadra kill. Almost an ace coming on through. Noir Tempest spawns just in time to prevent that. But what a fight and a play out of the Aatrox in the top lane. Shorty putting on a massive performance here.
And you can see he has his big shutdown back. He was like, "Hey, you got that from me. I'm gonna take it back," and now he has it again. And I feel like that's the third time now that UBTenacity just looks unstoppable and the game looks basically over. Let's see if Evil's can close the gap again, or if this was the last fight. In 1 minute you have the Drake. I don't think that the Evos are in any shape or form to fight this Drake. You have see everyone on your Tenacity already is either at their second item or close to it, while not even one person has their first item yet by for the Evolves.
Yeah, definitely in a pretty weak position at the moment. And with this Drake coming up, it is going to be Soul Point. For the side of UBTenacity, you can see the gold lead in the top lane. It is just 4,000 gold for sure. This man's picked up so many of these kills. Just got 4 in the last fight. Mid lane as well is favoring UBTenacity, but the jungle is actually mentally unstable sort of terrain and domain where he is ahead by about 1,200 gold. You can see that in the items as well, almost having his way onto his second item. But you can see with how strong Shorty is, everyone is just scurrying around him. You can see mentally unstable and Delph. Neither of them want to really engage on this man. Although, as I say that, he could be in a little bit of trouble here as Lina is going to get engaged on in the mid lane. You can see they are popping all their cooldowns, all their CC onto the Atrix to try to kill him, as well as the ace in the hole is going to be enough to shield out of the eclipse. Is gonna come out through in the shutdown. It's gonna be collected. The last shutdown you said, Linus, that he got back is not gonna last too long.
Yeah, he just couldn't hold on to it. They needed a lot of resources to that's
Yeah.
a fizz, everyone. They needed a lot of resources to actually pick up the kill on the Aatrox. Meanwhile, you can see that Moppo is securing the third Drake. He didn't really have much of an impact so far. Only 2 of 22 kills participation, which is less than 10%. But he got the 3 Drakes. He got the Herald. So yeah, I just feel like the game is getting slowly and slowly more unwinnable for the E-Wolves.
Yeah, definitely is looking a little bit dire for their side. Like, and I do agree with you. I feel like Mopo so far hasn't really done much on the Java, and considering you picked an early ganker such as this one, I feel like you need to have a little bit more impact in the game, trying to work his way towards what I believe to be a frozen heart, with that frozen buckler as well picked up in his inventory. You can see him with the gold drinker as well as a couple of control words just to make sure his team has just enough vision to make sure they can actually play the game. You know, speaking of vision, Ichthus gonna find an engage in the mid lane, gonna pop the ignite as well. Does he have enough damage with the support Nico build to make sure the one shot comes through? No, he does not. As Wishy with a flash forward is gonna be able to pick up the kill, and Ichthus, who gets the jump on Wishy, ends up being the one who dies as well. Wishy says, no, 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 this is my mid lane.
Yeah, and we see that there are some moments for E-Wolves where they just find plays where they find some gold.
Wait, Hikoge?
Yeah, he should be able to come out, get out alive.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a fizz moment.
And you see the Baron being started by UBTenacity. They are saying everyone's on bot side. Yeah, we're just gonna do Nash, and they have such good Nash damage with the Aatrox, but especially with the Varus, who has a Blade of the Ruined King and a Ginzu's Rage Blade.
Yeah, Games is one of the better mythics when it comes to taking out objective just because of how much XP you get. But Hikoge now could be in a little bit of trouble on his own. Keep in mind the boys are around just because the Baron now being picked up ends up making his way out. That is a certified fist moment if I've ever seen one. Ends up going all the way from bot lane with 5 people chasing him to the mid lane and just says, "Hello, whoop-de-doo, I am now out of here." As it's gonna be a blue buff here picked up for Moppo. Gonna have a little bit of counter jungling while they got the Baron, but what kind of Baron setup would you like to see here, Linus? Because often we see teams take Baron and sort of not use it. So how would you like to see the set of UBTenacity use this Baron?
Yeah, I would like to go a 1-3-1 here. You have Fizz, who's really, really slippery and who has a great tower push, and you have the Aatrox, who's just a huge rage boss. Both of them can be on the side lane really, really effectively. And you also have both of those tier 2 towers on the side lane, who are both worth like 800 local gold. What is Quishy doing? Okay,
Uh,
it's the game of weird moments, and that's one more of those. Anyway, you have those two big towers on the side lane who are worth a lot of gold that need to be picked up, and you have the inhibs, of course, that can slowly be taken with such big gold lead.
Speaking of inhibs being taken, Ictus is gonna disguise a minion, but now revealing himself. So, well, that's gonna be some coolest burn on Hikoge. Final spark as well is gonna go down. That's gonna be the jump of the waters being thrown. Voxer or Oxer is just gonna be able to pick him on up. Meanwhile, the raid boss continues down towards the bot lane. Ictus now is gonna land the root onto mentally unstable down in the mid lane. That's gonna be the last spike popped as well. The populism is gonna come on in no flash for Ictus, unfortunately. Not gonna be able to flash forward to catch Lina off of it, that as well. But can see a flash forward out of short though. He is gonna try to make his way on in. Shorty is gonna be popped in the world ender to just get that extra pressure on in, but no resets for the Aatrox this time on our round, as it's gonna be the dragon keeping him spawning in 50 seconds as well. So they need to start to get these paces on in. Can look for this bot lane inhib as well. I feel like they do have the numbers for it and will be able to pick that one on up. Another great route landed by Lina here, but Shorty could be in a little bit of trouble. That's a great route out of Ictus there to get the CC on in. Mentally unstable now is gonna make sure that he's gonna get down as well. Hikoge now is gonna just make the bounce, make the trounce, and he's gonna be able to pick up another kill. 2 kills for this Visor. Flash forward as well. Lina could be in a little bit of trouble here as the Jump of the Waters is gonna be able to pick up a triple kill for Hikoge in the mid lane as the Baron is just tearing the base apart. Nexus Tower is gonna fall. 2 Nexus Towers now is gonna fall. The Nexus itself wide open and naked for the side of UBTenacity to take, and it is gonna be them who take the Nexus of Evils, and it's gonna be UBTenacity who take our series 2-1 in what was a dominating performance.
Yeah, and Quishy with that 1 year after being eliminated 2-1 by UBTenacity in the Manta Cup quarterfinals, now losing the show match 2-1 against UBTenacity again. What a great series and what great performance by UBTenacity in game number 3. I want to highlight the Aatrox, but especially Ictus on the Nico, who was just like running around the map, finding plays over and over again, disguising as minions. And yeah, the UBTenacity looking really strong in that game 3.
Yeah, definitely looking very strong. And Linus, I gotta ask, is this the sort of result you were looking at today? Because we sort of coming into those first 2 games, I would argue was very sort of back and forth, pretty competitive. The second game, granted, was a bit of a stomp by Evils, but I feel like Ubisoft still had some good moments in there. But this third game was a complete fiesta. I don't know if half the things I saw, but did you expect the 2-1 result we got towards UBTenacity today, or did you sort of think that it might have been a little bit more even for series?
I think the only thing that would have really surprised me would have been a 3-0 for the E-Wolves. Anything else is something that I think is not too surprising. The E-Wolves are a team with really strong players. They are not playing together for such a long time, so it's kind of understandable that they are seeming a bit weaker than initially thought. On the other side, UBTenacity are just showing how great they are. Some of their players are on that roster for over 3 years, and you can just see that 2-1. They are looking at a short break before the next series against the Turtles. Um, so yeah, do you have any final thoughts on UBTenacity before we are heading into a break? We will end the stream, by the way, on this Twitch account, and we will announce the second stream in like half an hour. That's all.
Yeah, so make sure to stay tuned for that as well. And for me, since this is like the first show match I've sort of got to cast so far for the Manta Cup, so this has have been very eye-opening, at least for me, as to what sort of we're gonna be looking at when it comes to these two teams, when it comes to UBTenacity and E-Wolves moving forward. And I think it's gonna be really exciting to see what these two teams have to offer, especially when they do end up going up against each other once more. But definitely all excitement for me, and I cannot wait for a second series of the day, Linus.
Yeah, me as well. Thank you everyone for watching. We hope to have everyone back, of course, for the next series. Stay tuned. You can look into the Manta Cup Discord to find the announcement. And yeah, Dessa, we will be back in around 30 minutes.